Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes, and I got super special guest today, Grffin Sims, comic book writer. How you doing, dude?
Doing all right, man. Thanks for having me on.
I know it's been it's one of those ones we've talked about this for a good while because we would just always run across each other at the Comic Cons, whether they be in Sacramento, Modesto, Central Valley areas, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I almost wish that we had some of those conversations to already upload. I think we had a good one about like Clerks 3 or something.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing is you go there and you're talking for a half an hour or something like that. And you get to that point sometimes too, that there's so many of those things where like you're talking for so long, you're like, oh man, the conversation is just like, man, if that was just recorded. Or the funny thing is I would think about is when I originally started doing Old Man Orange podcast, my original show is me and my buddy Dunnigan. We'd be like driving home from like a movie. And instead of doing that thing where like, you'd be talking in the car or something like that, we'd be like, no. We'd just be like, save it for the show. So we just drive home in silent. Just because you felt like you were going to waste any gold by talking. And then I came to the conclusion that, you can literally talk about something and then kind of talk again. I mean, it might not be exactly the same, but it's almost like rehearsal. That's the way I sort of look at it.
Yeah, I mean, like you'll probably have a better, way of expressing the thing that you were trying to talk about if you get to talk about it again.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is you start like I've actually done that before where I will use material and I'll talk about it with other people before a podcast to see if I can kind of build some more stuff onto it. And then when it's like, okay, now that I sort of talked to it, like I'll just say like a movie review, you talk it out with a handful of people and then you kind of can work it up to once you get ready to talk about it. And, you think about all the scenes and stuff when you go onto the show. But even speaking of recording, just for anybody out there, we're also doing this old school podcast style on this episode. We're going full audio, no video, the way that God intended podcasting to be, back in the good old listening days. But it does make it kind of nice to do it like this because you get it super smooth. And since we got this ridiculous weather going on right now, like, I don't know about you because you're in Sacramento area.
Just moved over to Roseville, but it's even one more half hour away. I was thinking of doing the drive up, but I didn't plan on dying in a fiery death tonight. Not tonight.
Yeah, as I said, it's like today I was like, you know what? Another time that would be super fun because you could come on up, you could see the old mountain experience podcasting and all that kind of stuff. But today was like, no, I mean, just the previous last 2 weeks was like snow galore. Then it's been just downpouring rain. And then like before we were podcasting, they're like tornado warning in effect. And so a tornado even came down like a half an hour away. So tornadoes, extreme rain, thunder and lightning galore. It's like summoning the gods.
Yeah, that is cool to say with your like I get to see the mountain vibe because that's like where Pizza Boys takes place. We get to drive by the I think I was just skimming the comic over again before the recording, and I saw your like that's definitely that house on the first issue is definitely based on a place that you're from, right?
Yeah, especially in the first one. I literally when I did, I just walked outside and took a picture.
I had a feeling.
I was like, I'll take a picture and I'll draw from that, and that's what I'll use as my reference there.
So, what inspires you from your writing? Because as a writer myself, I typically go off of like my own experiences and kind of either just write fantasy scenarios or actual fantasy scenarios where it's things that happened around me, and then I kind of exaggerate them and make them sort of fantastical, in their own way.
Well, that's sort of the way I kind of do stuff. Like the saying that I used to always go with was that I take a real life situation, then I turn it to 11, and kind of run with it from there. And then there's sometimes some ones I remember I'd be telling people about Pizza Boys and be like, oh yeah, most of these are all based off real situations. And someone would look at me like, well, what about the one where the two 11-year-old girls like kidnap you guys? It's like, okay, well that would start off as just a a funny conversation where there was a girl literally threatening us at sword point, like at the toy aisle, and asking all kinds of like, very like bizarre, the like that intellectual like 11-year-old character, where she's almost like he or she knows way too much for her age in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah, like scary ass kids, bro.
Yeah, those ones were like, yeah, it's like they're looking at you like you're the idiot, And I just thought we're like, man, that's just kind of funny. It's just picture these girls that like just with like too much like power on their hands and like what they would do to like take you or in a sense kidnap people. And I thought that would just be kind of funny, but then give it sort of a horror vibe. But that's what I always kind of like to do is most of the stuff, even things that are kind of like fantastical, even though Pizza Boys is generally a little bit more grounded, but even like those kind of ideas, I do feel like, yeah, you take something kind of real, and then you add in some flavors and twists and so on to it, and then just run with it. Because sometimes that's the interesting thing is see where you'll go with it. Because you don't really sometimes always know where a story's going until you just kind of keep thinking about it more and more, and then it just starts piecing itself. And then sometimes you might get too exaggerated or too far out, but that's never a bad thing.
I mean, even from like rereading, I like the slice of life aspect. Like this, and it is really like a slice of time because you like, let's say if you wanted to make something like this now and you're going off of your own experiences, like how boring as shit a comic book about dudes who play games online would be. Like you don't get to interact. Like even like the reason I was trying to push to get to you as much as I was because it's like a conversation is so much more different when it's two people in a room. Like I can't tell when you're about to talk, so I don't know when I gotta, shut the fuck up a little second, or like if I feel like through digital, it's just you don't get the same experience as like if we were playing games next to each other, then we were playing games online, like playing Smash with your buddies. Like if someone kills you off the side of the screen on a walk off, you could punch them in the fucking arm. But if you are playing and you're online, I was playing online with one of my boys back in the day, and he put, I didn't even know that, like, it was on 3DS, and it was, he put, like, I don't know, a perk on that made it to where, like, I swear to God, it's like if he hits you, it heals him. And I'm like, that is the most bullshit. Like, I'm barely chipping at your like health. That's how my character works, and it's healing him. Like, I think I was leaning into the fucking microphone. I'm like, better even turn that shit off right now. I know where you live. I'll be there soon. Like, I just like, and like if it was me and him on the couch, I would have said like, hey, what is that? What are you doing? Like, don't be doing that. This is Smash Bros is where fights start. It does not settle it in Smash. It is
no
quite the opposite.
And I 100% agree with you. And even podcasting wise, like, yes, podcasting in person is so much better. It's like, I'm grateful that we have the technology we have, that we can do it this way, and we can do it over the internet. And we're doing it like almost like even more old school. We're doing it like phone call style practically, because we're just doing straight up audio. But
right. There's
something, it's like one of those ones, like that's great to have as a bonus, but it does not beat like the in-person one. It's like every single time I do an in-person podcast, especially like now, because they're kind of a little bit rare, but like the flow is just, there's so much more energy and chemistry. And it's the same way I feel about video games too. It's like, I think that's why I always sort of fell off the wagon of like playing online games. It's weird. It's like I always used to make the joke. I'm like, I think I played more online games in like the dial-up days than I do now. But
right,
cool, because that's how weird. It was like you would call up your buddy and be like, dude, you want to play some Command and Conquer right now? And be like, yeah, man. And like, oh, okay, I'll see you on there in 15 minutes. We got to hang up though, because that's the only way we're gonna get online, and hope that everything works out. And you would go through this whole process, and then lo and behold, you hope you would find, your buddy on there, and then you would start booting up some Command and Conquer. But, you didn't really have a proper way to talk to anybody once you're on there. It's like you got the chat window, but if he like somehow, some way lost his internet connection, or you vice versa, like there was that weird moment where you're like, I wonder what happened on the other side. I don't know.
Right, like someone, you either mom picked up the phone.
Yeah.
God.
And that was it. But it's even like with other things too. It's like video games in person is something I miss so much, and it's like the one, like whether it be a competitive game or it be like a cooperative game, like there was something so special. Well, you got the dog alarm going now.
Oh, God damn it.
That's okay. Everybody likes a good dog barking in the background, except for your neighbors.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah. Here's the hound sound.
Yeah, the hound coming on at you with the old hound sound on WKRS. But yeah, like gaming with like people, like the one era I think was actually a very magical time of kind of like buddy gaming was the Xbox 360 era, because you had so many great split screen games. Like you could play through all the Halos, Gears of War. There was Left 4 Dead. You had Army of Two. Like even Call of Duty back then, when it used to still be at least partially co-op. And it's like, one of those ones like, when you're sitting with your buddy and you were like there in the same, like, I don't know, like that experience is just not replicated online. Online's like, it's a nice substitute. And sometimes I used to always describe it as the way it's like, I don't know, have you ever seen American Pie 2? Where
I think
Eugene Levy's like, telling his son about like, he's like, sex. He's like, and you want a partner, right? You want someone that can throw the ball back and forth, because if not, you're just bouncing the ball off the wall, and it's just it's fun, but it's not a game. And that's like what the saying I always feel about like online gaming. It's like it's fun, but it's just not the same thing. It's not that same gaming experience that I think of.
Yeah, and I mean, Xbox 360. It's funny that you mentioned that. I think the online HUD aspect, every other system afterward had. I can't even the PlayStation 3, I wasn't able to figure out how I'd talk to people, but like 360 was just rectangle middle of the screen. You enter a chat room, and it was like I think I was just on one of my just booted it up the other day just to look at it. It was like, one of my fucking old friends, like Ecto Robotic online 3 years ago. I'm like, oh my God. It's different when it's like your own friends. People talk about it online, but it's like damn, yeah, nobody, like the boys haven't even talked in that long,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like missing it. It's like almost like a bunch of old war buddies,
right?
Getting back together again.
It's like,
and everybody's got their own code names and everything, from your handles.
Yeah. Private Riggs died back then. His mom smashed his Xbox.
It was a sad day. He never recovered from that. He's been walking empty-handed ever since then, staring out into the distance, wondering what life's even about anymore. What's the point? Where to go?
Now he plays with a Mad Catz controller. Everyone says he's a fucking dork about it.
Sadly enough, 3 months later, he was found. He hung himself with that Mad Catz controller. It's one of those.
He tried to, but it...
But the cheap cord just broke.
Yeah, the cheap ass fucking things.
I kid you not, though. I'm kind of partial in a weird way to certain like third-party controllers. Like some of them are like so weird and goofy that I almost like them because of that.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I had a PlayStation 2 controller that I thought was the official one because it like. It had better grip on the thumbsticks and it had like actual rubber grip on the side. Come to find out that it's like, I don't know, the PlayStation 3 controller was fine. And then like looking at the PlayStation 2, you're just like, it feels fucking weird,
Yeah. No, there is kind of a weird one, but I don't know what it is. I'm like partial to it. And like, even nowadays I get to the point where like I buy weird controllers because I just like to have just, I don't know, a different experience maybe. I'm not too sure, but there's something kind of fun about having stuff like that, or, just having like the alternative controllers. Like, of course, I always got to have like a fight pad or something for like the system. So, or like ones that have like a good D-pad action if you're going to play some 2D games.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Don't be trying to play, 2D games on a 360.
Oh, God. The 360, the one thing about the 360, it had like the worst D-pad known to mankind. I don't know how they got that one so kind of funky.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the like if anything, I think the Xbox One controller, best controller they've made. Even like the next one, they're just trying too hard. Like the Xbox One, just it fits in the hands. It's got like decent trigger. It's like it's their first D-pad because Nintendo lost their license on that.
Oh, I guess maybe that's the reason why the D-pad was always so weird on an Xbox.
Yeah, that's why or on the PlayStation, technically they didn't have a D-pad. They had like, that's why it
Buttons.
looked the way it did. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because yeah, PlayStation. Well, weird, but Sega has a D-pad. The Dreamcast has a straight up D-pad.
But like if you look at it though, it looks like the Xbox D-pad. Like it's got the same sort of like one block and then it just wobbles.
Oh, like a rotational circle, sort of like a Sega Saturn and Sega Genesis style.
Right. So it's like it's like technically like that's why they did on the PlayStation. It's like it's a D-pad, but it's got these, it's got a cover, so legally.
Yeah. Well, in
Not quite.
PlayStation, it's literally buttons. Like that's what it is. It's like
Mhm.
what the Switch is now, but like the PlayStation has been doing that the whole time.
Right, right, right.
So it's yeah. There's something to be said about having a good D-pad. Or something. I'll actually say the Xbox Series X has a pretty good. I thought that D-pad finally came together on there because it's got almost like a little bit of a mixed match kind of Sega Saturnish style one. Maybe not that far, but
Right. I mean, I think I've held one a couple times. I think I'm probably just biased because the Xbox One was a certain time in life,
yeah. Well, those systems, like those certain times in life, like those ones they'll win you over different than other stuff, and it's almost like you can't explain it to anyone except for like you had to be there.
Like try playing Banjo Kazooie with anything but that goofy ass like 3-hand controller. Like
And
I
you know
love
what?
that thing.
That N6, you know what? And I'll say this: the N64 controller, all of a sudden, in like the last like year or two, I noticed for some reason there's just been this hate towards N64. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how, because I never saw that my entire life until just kind of recently. But that N64 controller, I think, is way more like intelligent than most people always give it to. I mean, you got your
Right.
standard mode of playing it, like Mario 64, where you kind of just hold in the dead center of your left hand and your right hand's over there doing the buttons. But it was also made to be a left-handed controller. So like when you're playing games like Turok, everybody's playing it actually in the left-handed style, but you're supposed to switch your hands over, and then it's a right-handed controller. So you got both sides there. Then you got the
Mhm.
D-pad with a 6-button layout. Like it was literally made to have like Street Fighter on there, though Street Fighter never came, but it was designed to be almost like a fighting controller too. And then
Mhm.
there's also another mode too where you hold like two controllers in your hand, like the richest kid in town, and you could play games like GoldenEye and stuff, like twin stick style, like it's Halo, but way before that era. And once again, that was another thing that nobody ever like seemed to know, existed or whatnot.
That was an option?
That's an option. Like literally on like the original GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, and a
Oh,
few other ones, they have a mode if you go through the controllers where you can hold two controllers. As I said, you just look like the rich kid playing. Now you got like $120 in your hand.
right.
you know,
I mean,
or, I guess controllers weren't that expensive back then, but even still, you got both these controllers in your hand, like almost like your buddies of your house. Can I play? No, I'm using both of them.
fucking, I think the only way that controller doesn't hold up is the stick. Like that thing just like I bought it actually recently. They got these repo controllers that have a stick on it that's like the GameCube controller, so it like works instead of
Is
being this like the squeak.
is that the
sound.
yeah? I know the squeak when you're talking about. Are those the controllers called the like the what the heck are they called, like Fight Pad? No, they have a funny. I've looked at them for like ever, like on Amazon. I'm always like, I wouldn't mind trying one of them, but at the same time, I'm kind of iffy because I am very partial to the N64 controller.
I mean, they're good. It's honestly, it's like the one third party controller you'd fight over, like amongst your friends. Like, it's because it functions. Like the stick works instead of the squeak.
Well, they also too a lot of those N64 controllers, like the older ones, like they've gotten really worn out as time has gone on. Like one of the interesting ones is on the Switch with their kind of classic game section is they sell, of course, NES controllers, Super
Yeah.
Nintendo controllers, and they had the N64 one, which is like really tough to get. But I got one of those when they first came out.
Oh,
And I
shit.
think it's literally been out of print ever since. But like, I remember when you first get in your hands, you're like, holy crap! It's literally it's like the feeling a brand new N64 controller that like you haven't felt in like years, Or like even the same thing with like the NES controller when they had those ones. It was like I'm like I don't think I've ever felt an NES controller literally brand new out of the box. I think they were always used in my hands.
Yeah, those are. I thought it was dope that they had the like it snapped to the side of the system.
Yeah, the
Like,
charge.
Like I think they didn't do that for the Super Nintendo, did they?
No, it's just the NES one snaps there, and the Super Nintendo one's the only one I don't have. But there's this company called 8-Bit Do that's like a third-party controller seller, but they make amazing controllers, and I literally have like probably 10 controllers from them. But they made these Super Nintendo light controllers that you could use on your Switch or PC or whatever, and it's a Super Nintendo controller, but then it's got L2 and R2 on it as well. Both the joysticks and all the extra buttons that you're going to need for the Switch or whatever. And it's so sick. It feels good. It almost feels so good that they had to like change the design as it went on because I think it was to Nintendo and probably something happened because they sort of discontinued the original version of it. But even the other ones they have, they're fantastic. They also make Sega Genesis ones that are amazing. They're kind of like a hybrid between a Sega Genesis and a Sega Saturn controller.
I think I've seen those. The Super Nintendo one you're talking about. Definitely like at like local game shops and all that.
Yeah, they're so cool. As I said, I got I got like literally a Super Nintendo one, a Super Famicom one. I also have two Genesis ones. A lot of times I use one of them for because I use that Xbox Game Pass like streaming thing. A lot of times like when you're on like the go and you have some time to kill. Well, it's like I use that Sega one. I hook it up to my phone. You throw it over in your car or whatever and anything like that. It's like you can pull up some fighting games or some platforming games and you're ready to go.
I would want to get one of those. The or at least the thing where it like it extends and then it goes over the the power thing and you just play it like it's a portable Switch.
Yeah, no, it's because there's a couple companies. There's this one company that makes those kind of controllers called GameSir, and I have a normal controller that just looks like an Xbox controller, and it just hooks up Bluetooth to my phone, and that's what I've literally been using. Like ever since that Xbox streaming thing kind of came out, I've been doing that literally for like the last 2.5 years or whatever it's been, maybe almost even 3 by now, and it's like that thing's like close to flawless now. Like I literally have played through an entire series of games just straight up streaming it. Like because most people like they try it and then like they never come back to it. And they're just like, oh, okay, I gave it a go. It seemed to work. That's about as much as I tried it. I'm like, dude, I full on play all kinds of stuff on there because it's like, hey, you got some time to kill and you're sitting in the car or something like that, or you're waiting somewhere, pull out the Xbox.
Right. I mean, it's just crazy. I think we're far from like that being the new form of games, but like once we're there, it's kind of like, why would you download a whole game or like, and like the systems coming out later are probably going to have smaller gigs and like higher intense like focus on like online capabilities just for that. But I think Google, they kind of fumbled the bag. They tried, but you can't jump the most game, like technically there's only 2 gaming giants right now, and that's Sony and Microsoft, and then Nintendo does their own thing. Like, there's only ever been able to be 2 as far as like gaming goes. Like,
yeah, there's just not enough space for more stuff. And I think that's the thing is like, see, that's why I think the Game Pass one works because, hey, people already got Xboxes and so on as is. It's such an easy like jump into. And even PlayStation Plus's one's been pretty sweet too. I'm just waiting for them to have the phone version so that I can have both Xbox and PlayStation just totally on the go.
Right. I was looking at the play. Do you have we got PlayStation Plus like there's like PlayStation Plus Super Duper, and then
I got PlayStation Plus Super Duper. I just like on Black Friday they had the deal, and I was like, an extra $50, whatever. Just give me that one. It's probably gonna be games that I already own because that's the only downfall about like both Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. I look through there and go, man, this selection of games is so good. And I go, too bad I bought like 3/4 of them on there.
Yeah, I mean like they got the Uncharted collection, fucking God of War, but it's like. I've heard plenty of people bitch about it, but it's like $150 a year, whatever the fuck, and you get to play like everything, and they're all good for the most part. It's like it's not like fucking Joe's Diner or whatever the fuck, like random shovelware things. Like I could say it's worth more than Nintendo's, where it's just like I don't know, like 20 Super Nintendo games that you never heard of, kind of.
Yeah, well, the Super Nintendo selection was they sort of fixed everything with like the N64 release has been pretty good, and the new Game Boy one sounds weird that like, oh man, I'm so excited about that Game Boy release, but
oh, I mean, I was recording that, like I wasn't streaming it or nothing, but I was like I was like, okay, Game Boy Advance, what are we talking here? What kind of Game Boy Advance games are we? And then I was like, hmm? And then the end, and I'm like, yeah, I know you weren't about to put out Mother 3. Like, I know you weren't. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but I was like, I was staring at him. I was staring him down. Maybe in the future, maybe they're just teasing it by like, or they're just messing with us. You know, they had that Robot Chicken sketch. They had the like the many like dodgings of mentioning Mother 3. Like, bro, they could put out Mother 3 for the Switch for like $200 a digital copy. And I think someone would buy it, right? Like,
I feel a lot of people actually would buy. I probably if I could round up some $200, I probably would buy it.
it's like they all know that we've already played it. So like dumping it on their streaming service or their their Nintendo Game Boy Advance online, like it's the least they could do. It's already translated. Just give the guy like some money and take his and then put it. I think he even the guy that translated the game offered like it for free. Like he was like, here, you can use it. And they were like, no, I don't think I will.
Yeah, I know. It's like, and that guy put like a lot of work into it. Like that's a very solid version, the Mother 3 for Game Boy Advance.
Like, I mean, I've played it. It's fantastic. I love that game.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, it's not like the ballsiest move they could possibly do is put out a Game Boy Advance game in the year 2023. Like, just an actual, no digital, just like mass produce a bunch of Game Boy Advance carts and put them out, and then go to every single like seller who was doing repo carts and send cease and desist letters.
Exactly. Well, you know what you could always do is you can always do like, Limited Run does that once in a blue moon where like they'll put like in a sense reproduction versions of like SNES or Genesis games or something like that. So, or even they did it with Shantae. They did it with the original Shantae. They put it back on Game Boy again, So it's not out of the question.
Right. But for crusty ass Nintendo, maybe not.
Yeah, it's just so weird. It's like, it's just one of those ones that's like, that can't cost, let's be honest, that doesn't cost like really any money just to put together a translation and throw it up on the Nintendo. I mean, they've done it for a few other games. Like they did Mother 1 that came out like on the Wii U, and then I think they put it on to Switch as well. And then they did it also with the original Fire Emblem. And I remember even like the Fire Emblem, they're like, oh, we're only gonna let you have this for like 6 months. I remember I bought it and played the living daylights out of it. I'm like, this is sweet. They should do more of this, less of everything else.
It's just bizarre because they have so many options, but they're holding it behind like they're keeping it in the Disney vault because they know that it like has value. But then they get mad when their very dedicated fans want to like make art based on the game, like they're like the Mother 4 thing, like where they sent a cease and desist, even though like I think even the laws, like they technically did have no right to tell them like you can't make a Mother 4, especially because they weren't going to sell it. Like it was free.
Yeah, because that used to be how things were. It's like, hey, you can do any form of work, as if you don't make any money off of it, you can pretty much do anything you want. But somehow, some way, that kind of rule's been thrown out the window. Seems like in the last handful of years.
Well, the Nintendo ninjas are very threatening.
They are. It's like, don't get me wrong. I love me some Nintendo, but yeah, they like to like lock and seal some stuff.
Yeah, like God. So what have you been working on lately, man?
I've been working on Pizza Boys issue 14's been the one that I've been drawing. Literally, when we started talking, I was working on one of the pages, getting it all together. And all in all, for like, as I'm going at a pretty decent pace for, filling in with all the time that I kind of have to kind of work on it and so on. It's making progress. Right. I like the way it's going.
No, man. I mean, I'm glad that you can find a good, life, work, and creative balance. Like that's difficult.
Yeah, no, that always is the one. Like, 'cause sometimes I look at some of my days and I go, I'll work like 15-hour, 16-hour days between just like every single thing I have to do in the day. It's like I'll like, you wake up at 5 something in the morning, and then I'm like, by the time it's like, oh, it's like 9:30 and I'm still working on stuff. Okay, I guess it's time to go to bed now. And so this will be just some of those
Yeah.
days where it's just like you're just filled to the brim with all kinds of stuff, but yeah, I just feel it's like, I just like to get stuff in no matter what, and a lot of times, I mean, I don't always fall to this, but I always feel like there's something to be said about trying to get just at least a little bit of work every single day, even if it's only like a half an hour, because it's like a half an hour doesn't sound like much, but that still adds up. It still gets you farther to the finish line.
It is definitely more than nothing, and it keeps your head in the right place as far as like habit, because we're humans, we're creatures of habit, and it's nice to like have that human reward system, to like not just be like, oh, I was a writer, but I haven't done it in a fucking long ass time because my life is a mess. But like you gotta be able to work around that and know when it is, like time to switch your brain into create mode, or like just find the joy and the love in what you do and be proud of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of it, is because, and it's something I always notice too, and this kind of goes with anything, whether it could be something you're working on, or it could even be something that you're watching or playing video game wise or something like that. But like once you sort of pass that 3-day period of not working on it or not playing it or not watching it or anything like that, it's amazing how after just those days, it can literally fall to the back burner, and then almost it's like your mind starts like losing interest in it in a weird way. Like then you almost got to reinvigorate yourself to get back in the groove and everything like that. It's like I feel like after 72 hours, you can kind of lose that groove. Not all the time, but that's almost like the danger zone spot. I feel like once you hit that, like, oh, we're going over 48 hours, like make sure you at least get something done. It's one thing, you can take 1 day off, no problem whatsoever. 2 days, that's fine if it's like a certain thing, but like I feel like you got to watch the past 3-day moment.
Yeah, like, and then when it turns to months, it might take months to even get back into it. And like, especially if you have like, if it was like a depressive episode, or like something goes on in life, then it's like getting back on the horse is the hardest thing if you don't build the muscle for it. Like, oh God, yeah, I can I can relate to that.
Yeah, gosh, because it's just one of those ones like, yeah, you just got to kind of keep going. And the other things too is always to have, in a sense, sometimes multiple avenues of like projects to work on, because that sometimes will get certain people too. I notice is like if one idea they have just doesn't go the way they can, or something fails on them or anything like that, and they almost have like nothing else to be like, oh, okay, well, that didn't work out. Well, that's okay. I got this over here, and it gives me time to work on that. Like that's something that's kind of nice to always have too.
Yeah, it's good to have multiple, like, I'm even learning this on all fronts, but like not putting all your eggs in one basket, like, because if you lose that basket, then you got no more eggs.
You don't got eggs, you don't got the perfect protein. So what I mean, what's the point of doing anything then?
And then you're weak, brother, and you can't even walk.
That's right, brother. If you don't get the protein in, you don't get the bodybuilding in, you're not going to be ready for Sunday night at WrestleMania.
Have you it's random tangent, have you ever just drank an egg raw?
Oh, yeah, you're talking to the guy who's probably drank more raw eggs than most people in the world, and I kid you not. Because for the longest, I started about 10 years ago, I started adding protein or eggs to my protein shake. I started with like 1, then I put 2, and then I was like, okay, 3 is kind of a nice mixture. 3 raw eggs, protein powder, milk, boom, there you go. You got everything. You got science protein, you got the best protein with eggs, and then you got dairy protein. You're hitting all avenues right there. And I've done it before where I've literally put 6 eggs in there, and I'd go more eggs and everything like that. And yeah, or you could another one. This is like the Mexican way to do it, is you put 3 eggs into orange juice, and then you mix it around, and that actually tastes pretty good like that too. And it's like you get the perfect combo of, you got your protein right there, all natural from the hens, and then you got a little bit of sugar and carbs to kind of go with it with the orange juice, and it mixed nicely. So yeah, I've had more raw eggs. I literally would buy the 5 dozen pack of eggs. And I remember somebody was like, I was at the store like checking out once. And they're like, "Oh, what, pancake breakfast?" I'm like, "No, I'm gonna drink all these." And they just looked at me like, "What?"
I mean, it's the quickest way to consume it. I mean, like making scrambled eggs and then eating them takes up a remarkable amount of time when you really look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, that is not the answer I was expecting to hear.
It's one of those. Well, here's the thing. I'll say this. Okay, cook 6 eggs and try to eat that. That is really tough. That's a lot. That's a lot there. But you can drink 6 eggs a lot easier.
Right, because it just fucking. I would think I'd crack a few eggs and then put I didn't even think of all that. I just put protein powder in it to make it not taste like complete ass. Because there's a point where it just is. It tastes like milk, you know, like yeah, damn.
Yeah, you gotta get that right balance in. That's like almost the key thing of the balance between whatever liquid you use, because I can get the balance of even like a protein powder to get it where you can use it with water and it doesn't taste funky. And like the key thing is just use very little water, all the water, just use the amount of water you need and nothing more. Where like milk you can kind of go for days on it, be like whatever, it doesn't really matter if you have too much milk. That's not a big deal either. But like the water, you got to get that balance. But then you throw the eggs in there too. And as I said, the thing to do is I always tell people like just try it with 1 egg. Throw 1 egg into your protein shake. You'll never notice 1 egg. By the time you start to get to 2 or 3 and plus, you will at one point get the slimy like, oh, there's an egg in there that just didn't get properly blended up. So it's bound to happen, but it's kind of nice. And oddly, I actually haven't done it in a while. I mean, I felt like so every once in a while I'll just take a break like from protein shakes, and I just haven't had one in. Well, I had one today. I take that back. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I wasn't having them on the regular as much, but
yeah, I dig it. I mean, like it's underrated for creating things, as probably especially in writing, but like keeping a healthy mind is like I'm not the type who can like have you ever heard Hunter S. Thompson's like morning routine? It's like
no, I don't think so.
Oh, it's fantastic. You've got to look it up. I think it was on the Joe Rogan Experience, but like it's just it's this document where this writer for the New York Times would like he'd wake up like at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon or like 12 or something like that, and then he'd like just fill his body with liquor, watch porn, do coke, like he would, and then it goes fuck it just gives this huge list and then says 4 p.m. Hunter S. Thompson is ready to write, and then he just sits down and hammers it out until he falls asleep and then wakes up the next day and does it again. It's like I wish I wish I had that kind of brain.
I love all those old school stories like that because sometimes I just feel like that like lifestyle, like if you went to try that today, it would just not work out the same way. Even if you did it exactly like to the T, I just feel like there are some of those guys that like they could just do ridiculous stuff. Or it's like another one is like I was reading a book on like Ian Fleming, the dude who wrote 007. And I remember because in Casino Royale when I read that as a kid, and it's like Bond was on his 70th cigarette of the day. I'm like 70 cigarettes a day, like Jesus. And then it was like in that book, it's like that's what he wrote it in there because that's what Ian Fleming did every single day. I'm like, well, no wonder he only lived to like 56 or whatever. But it's like that's a lot of that's like you're literally lighting up a cigarette like at least every 10 minutes.
It is a weird trend that writers like of the past they smoke. Like that's that used to be like everything. Like now that you mention it, I mean Hunter S. Thompson smoked fucking like whatever you get a picture of, like I think even Walt Disney smoked.
Yep. Stephen
like
King used to smoke a bunch because even Stephen King says he's like the nicotine actually does kind of help with the writing. The other effects of it aren't really worth it in the long run, but he's like in the moment it did actually kind of keep you sort of like alert and on track and whatnot.
Yeah, that's just yeah, kicking addiction is definitely if you're making enough, if you're successful with writing, then kicking that addiction will be the least of your worries.
Yeah.
You know,
But if that's
but
the only thing you got in life is that addiction, then
yeah, then you don't got money for I don't know, coke or smokes.
smoke. Yeah, I don't got any of that good stuff. So yeah, or whatever you want to say there. But yeah, those are those ones. I still think it's like story wise. I think it's so interesting when you hear that about like certain things. It's just like, huh, it's cool to say that. Like I feel like like. Yeah, because I feel
Like
for the most people they would just end up crashing from trying any of that kind of stuff. Like the Hunter S. Thompson thing, that would like kill half the people out there.
or like when Shrek revealed that he was on LSD while he made when he wrote Hallelujah. Fucking it's a true genius of our generation.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Fucking God.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
speaking of writing, I reread your Tekell The Viking today, and I was kind of wondering, you got a second one in the works coming down the line?
I mean, it's hard to say. I wouldn't say that like I started writing it and we even got into storyboard in the first 5 pages, but it's just kind of like a lot's been going on like in my personal life, and it's kind of switched my focus up from this comic. I've got this other project that I want to work on film wise that kind of uses themes of what I wanted to do with Tekell, but me and the artist don't really we're not really working on anything together anymore. I haven't really heard from him in a minute. But ideally, like that would have been great if the second issue came out like 6 months ago, like
Yeah, they kind of match in time, because that's the only thing about nowadays. It's like it feels like you got to kind of catch those waves, even though I say that and then I've even had ones that take its sweet time coming out, but
yeah, I mean, like I think if anything, I might have bit off a little more than I could chew, because there was a lot of plans, and I think even like I don't know, maybe 8 months ago, I was trying to talk about like, all right, why don't we do a project that because I heard this advice from some writer like a while ago, like a year and a half, and I asked him like what he had, and he was like, yeah, just I heard your idea. I just maybe don't start with a grand epic story for your first, like and all these plans for sequels. Just like prove to people that you can tell one story. And I thought, man, that's the bullshittest fucking thing I ever heard at the moment. I was like, you sound like a little bitch who didn't have no dreams, but he was focused. Who the fuck am I talking to? But like I just like, it's nice to hear advice and then realize that you're an arrogant prick. Like I didn't say all that to him, but I was like, I definitely thought like, man, don't be stepping on my dreams right now. I got plans and they may or may not go through. It's like I would now. I just want to make. I'm working on a short film that I had written a while ago, and I'm just ironing out the kinks for that, because back when I made films in college, it was really fun. I don't know if you I think you said that you wanted to make Pizza Boys a movie before you started making it into a comic, right?
yeah, because literally movie making was like what I lived and did from like literally like almost like late, maybe very, very late elementary school, but high school on to college era. And then it was about like maybe like my mid 20s is when I sort of switched over to like animation, because we just got to the point where it was hard to get people to like work with in movies, and like because one thing I've always kind of learned in movies is everybody likes the idea of making a movie, but then once they see the real work it takes to make a movie, you start losing people real fast. And that's always the tough part. They just don't have enough time and any of that kind of stuff. That's sort of like what that Pizza Boys issue 4, I sort of wrote that one as kind of like when you're trying to make movies with your friends and how like a lot of things just do not work out the way you want them to, and all like the kind of struggles and, you know, problems that kind of go in there. And realistically, you know, going into animation was kind of nice because like me and my buddy could kind of do everything ourselves. And it was like, well, this is kind of cool. And animation doesn't have to look that good. It's just as long as it's moving, people are kind of like, oh, hey, that looks fun and funny. And we're doing comedy anyways. And then in that process, I just sort of learned how to kind of draw like later. And I was like, hey, you know what? I think I could draw just good enough that I could make a comedy book and go from there. And I will say the one thing I just like about making comic books like myself, even though it would be nice to have somebody else to work with, you know, but at the end of the day, at least the upside is that, hey, I never have to worry about if somebody else decides they're not into it or somebody else just doesn't show up or any of that kind of stuff. That's kind of the one nice thing is that like it's all on me, which does make the workload extreme, but at least at the end of the day, I know I won't fail myself.
Right. I mean, or like if you wanted to give up, it's on you, you know?
Yeah. I don't feel like I'm failing. I'm not going to be the person failing the other people.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, what was your plans for a Pizza Boys movie? Because I was actually considering like, you know, if that was something that you were still interested in doing, like it's a pre-existing property, you know. What was the plot you thought?
Well, really, the plot, like the way that Pizza Boys issue 1 starts off, is actually kind of ripped from the beginning of the screenplay because I wrote like 129-page screenplay or whatever, like in my senior year of high school for Pizza Boys, and I think I wrote it like in literally like under 7 days. I think I wrote the whole thing. Like I want to say I almost wrote it in like 4 days because I literally was writing it during class. And then like I transferred it over to the computer, like once the weekend came. And it's one of those ones. And then like my buddy Cisco, who's, you know, the comic, and my buddy Dunnigan as well in the comic, like, you know, we all kind of worked together and threw in ideas. And then I wrote that whole script and so on. And then I had that and I was like, okay, cool. Here's this one. And it had the core stuff of Pizza Boys in it, but it had more of a, in a sense, we made it in the style to go like American Pie or, you know, Animal House, like the kind of teen college comedy, kind of like that, where it had some kind of almost even somewhat wacky stuff in it, though it was still grounded and it still kind of had, you know, all the gaming stuff in there and just the hanging out and just like the retro vibes. But
that would be nice to see because it's like stuff like that, but movies like that, and sometimes like experiences of that nature feel like they are like few and far between now. Like they rarely like when was the last time you saw a comedy in theaters? You know, like
yeah,
barely make that sort of thing.
I know that's the thing is well, comedy. It's like I always think about that of comic books. It's kind of funny because comic books, you know, like generally. Like the thing is people think comic strips, funny pages, that kind of stuff. But beyond that, like you don't see comedy as common in comic books. I mean, there is comedy in comic books, but it's actually, it feels like that's a much rarer genre than anything else there is, which I always think is kind of funny. Like even like, because that's why I was called Pizza Boys. Like I kind of gave it the sitcom feel because that was the other things I always wanted to make was sitcoms. And so like, I mean, there's a couple of videos of sitcoms. I should just show them to you anyways. But, and
I've written a couple of sitcoms. They're fun.
Because I just love sitcoms. Like that was the one. It's like if I could be a sitcom writer, I would be like, yeah, sure. I could just sit there and come up with all kinds of ideas. And that was something I always wanted to do was make sitcoms. But I was like, well, then Pizza Boys, once again, the comic book series, I can, in a sense, make my sitcom and kind of do it, you know, the whole way through myself. And so that's been kind of fun. I should also, as I said, I had some from when we were putting together the Pizza Boys movie. We literally did have like casting call tapes that we had when we were in San Francisco and so on like that. And I literally have DV tapes that have all those on there because I've never gotten rid of any of my video cassettes or film or any of that stuff. I just have a big old fat stack of them of everything I've ever shot in life.
Oh, nice. Like that's yeah, it's good to keep your old work just in case you need to bounce off of it or just kind of take a nostalgia trip.
Well, because personally, I like the kind of like you sit back and you look at your old stuff, and there's some of those kind of people that they'll look at their old stuff and go, "Oh, it's just no good." I'm like, like for me, like I can always find all the good in it. Or it's same thing of like when you have old ideas in like your notepad and so on like that. Like
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of times I can go back to some stuff and go, oh man, I wrote this 10 years ago. This is a fantastic idea. Like, because a lot of times there's, I always feel there's more ideas than there's time to ever create anything, For every one idea that gets created, I feel like there's 15 ideas that are still sitting there.
Right, and it's like just keeping focus is a big thing, especially if you know it's like, oh, you get this, you're working on one thing and you have an idea for another. It's like, I just write that down so you don't distract from the thing that is currently happening.
Yeah, that's always an important one too, because if there's one skill that I always feel like I notice that I kind of have that like a lot of times other people kind of can be missing is I always feel like I can at least go from A to Z and complete something. Like, and I think that right there in itself, like, there's people that are much more talented in all kinds of avenues than I am, but a lot of times those people will peter out, or they won't make it all the way, or they'll give up halfway through.
Yeah, that's
And
a
I
good
feel
quality
just,
to have.
I feel finishing is almost like I would rather take someone who can finish and be not nearly as good of like, whatever it is, whether they're an artist or they're a creator or whatever they're doing. I think somebody who can finish something to me feels much more like satisfactory and like that than anything else. It's that, and also being optimistic and like enthusiastic. Like those three things together, I feel you could conquer the world in a sense of that.
I mean, having a reel of the things that you were capable of doing is like much better than just having like a bunch of, oh, here's my fucking notebook where I doodle a bunch of ideas, or the notes app on your phone, which is for me a breeding ground of fucking insanity. Like it only makes sense to me. And if someone, I think I was just reading something I wrote a long ass time ago where it was like ideas, and then it was a bit of a crazy time at the moment, and then I wrote something really dramatic, and then the next thing was like a goofy scene where a woman has to like have sex with a cartoon character, like a Roger Rabbit-esque scene
uh,
where like it's like an actress and she's like, so I'm supposed to like just pretend like it's happening. It's like, yeah, we'll draw over it later, don't worry.
Oh, it's funny like when the notes kind of are, because like they'll just like be all together, because that's how mine are too. And like I feel like if someone found my notes, they'd probably have a hard time reading them, because sometimes I write them so fast that like the handwriting goes out the window like a doctor's, and you're just trying to get all your ideas onto the paper before you forget it, so you just go at super speed. But yeah, it's one of those ones, like a lot of times I'll go back to the well of ideas and go, oh God, there's all kinds of great ideas that I kind of forgot about. And that's why I think the most important thing is, if you have an idea, just write it down. Always write it down. Like never, whether it be on the phone, whether it be on paper, whether it be anywhere, like get those ideas down, because they'll go away a lot faster than they came to you.
Yeah, I've had some shower thoughts that have yet to be written down. Like I can only hope that when I'm like when I die, I find out what those are. Like like have you ever like to me, a perfect afterlife is finding out like all the stats of everything that I've done, like unrecordable things, like how many, like wouldn't you like to know like how many times you've taken a shit, or
Yeah,
like
that'd be like the
right,
it gives you like your
weird thing
report.
to think.
But yeah, you're like, I want to see the details on that. I want to see the numbers.
It's like or like how much does every shit that I've ever taken weigh altogether? Like
Yeah,
what kind
like
of fucking psycho keeps track of that? But if I just knew without having to keep track of it, that would be the shit.
yeah, if I have my AI companion that records this data for us.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Here,
it's all those.
I'm gonna send you a short film I made a while back. Um, just have that just on its way. Sorry, I was just that's all I've been thinking about for a minute.
Well, yeah, I think you get in that thought process there. Well, yeah, I'd love to see that, because, as I said, like indie filmmaking was like, in a sense, the one thing that I really wanted to do for the longest time. As I said, it just got to that point where it's just like, getting those stories out and getting them together with a team was just always kind of a tough one. And I've done a lot of like freelance video editing and shooting like little commercials and concerts and videos like that and so on. And that's fun in itself, but it's not. It's almost like it's still not filmmaking. Like it's not like straight up. We're telling a story, writing and directing, and all that good kind of stuff there. Like I feel like that's like yeah. It's not that, and it's like I don't know. It's like I don't know. Like I feel like commercial aspects of like filmmaking. A lot of times it's missing like the real like pizzazz that storytelling is. And at the end of the day, what I've really come to the conclusion is what I like most, what it all sums up to more than anything else, is I like the storytelling aspect more than anything else. That's what it all is. It doesn't matter what medium is. It can be video, it can be music, it could be literally comics, novels. Doesn't matter. It's the storytelling aspect is what I kind of gravitated myself towards.
Right. It's like being able to share and have a connection with an audience speaks leagues more than like as much as like someone could see your comic as like just like silly dudes gaming and hanging out. But it's like to me and people that can relate with it or people that just like see more in it, you can see that it's very much like it's slice of life. Like it's to experience like a time that like you never know when the last time you were able to skate with your friends was, like you ever seen mid-90s?
Yes, I did. That was a good one.
That movie makes me sad in a weird way because it reminds me of like I will like I'd look like a crackhead right now if I went out with my friends and fucking like skateboarded, and I wouldn't even be able like all my homies from high school like hey, come over, let's skate. It's like, why don't we just drive there? It's like, oh, it's not the fucking same, dude.
Yeah, that's true. It's not the same.
It's like I'm gonna drive to where you are so we can fucking skate to another location. Like it's just but yeah, like just being that age, like you don't appreciate that you'll never be the age that you are like in the future,
Mm-hmm. Well, no, and it's one of those ones, like, especially even the older I get more nostalgic for that kind of age all the time, and I think it's one of those, especially like the skateboarding age, because gosh, it's almost that weird one. It's like, I remember I got on a skateboard, I had a friend, and he's older than me, and he brought like a skateboard to the movie theater once. He's like, hey, why don't you jump on? I'm like, sure, and I jumped on. I was like, oh man, my like equilibrium and balance and everything. It's like, this thing feels so dangerous right now. And it's like, but back in the day, I used to ride all the time. I was, never really great at skateboarding, but good enough. Just, handful of friends would get together and you'd go to different places around town and skateboard and, hang out till like past midnight and whatnot. And then when I lived in San Francisco, I had my skateboard there because I would use that to travel all the way around. And that was always fun because every day was an adventure in San Francisco while skateboarding. And you could go and explore all kinds of cool stuff. And you go like the Pier 59 or Pier 39, like at nighttime, and go skateboard out there. There was nobody out there. It was bizarre. I remember I had my buddy Kyle from Pizza Boys. I'm like, dude, bring your skateboard down, and I got to show you this. This is so weird. And we go to Chinatown at like 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, you know how this place is busy as all can be during the daytime, and cars are everywhere and people everywhere. And you go there at nighttime, and it's like, there's not a soul out here. It's like a ghost town. You literally don't, if you're lucky, you might see a random taxi cab off in the distance, but you see nobody, no homeless people, no people in general, nothing. It's so weird when you could skate through the whole thing down the dead center of the road. No one's ever going to bother you. That was a fun experience.
That's interesting. Actually, you think that it's like that's another thing. Like, is it still the same like that? Because I know that their homeless population problem is only getting worse. So like, what are the odds that every night, like, it gets around that time, tents start popping up,
Yeah, it might be. Maybe it's Chinatown kept them out. I don't know. Because definitely in other parts of San Francisco, that wouldn't be the case. But Yeah. The weirdest thing is like, yeah, like the homeless people, like at night, you would go out at nighttime, and I kid you not, you would see almost next to none of them, depending, I guess, what part of town you're in. But like
Mhm.
through a lot of towns, it would be weird. You like San Francisco shuts down at like 9 o'clock at night. It's the most bizarre thing, and like practically nothing is open past that point, except for a couple random bars that are few and far between. Like that town is so shut down, and
Hmm.
it's just like, yeah, you just literally, as I said, when I was kind of younger, I was like, man, this is cool. You can just literally, you pretty much have like the whole place to yourself. There's nobody out here.
That is, yeah, that's kind of freaky to think. Like, just, huh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I remember like me and a couple friends, we'd be walking back from like Haight Ashbury because we had a buddy that lived down there, and it would take us like an hour and 20 minutes to walk back to the side that we were at. And I kid you not, like in that entire walk, you'd almost never see a single soul. And it's like one of those ones. It's like probably only like 11:30 at night. It's not like it's ridiculously late.
Hmm.
But yeah, I couldn't figure it out. I thought for me, I thought that was the weirdest thing, but I thought it was also kind of cool at the same time.
Huh. Yeah, it's like, hmm.
I love how that skateboarding just got us off on like the most random tangent to like stuff, but that kind of goes with like the mid '90s, like because I remember when I saw that, I was like, oh, this thing it like really takes me back in a sense, because like I feel like even those characters are just slightly older than I am, but not by much.
Mhm.
And it just is like that. Wow, I feel like I felt like a lot of people, and I'm like, dude, I knew a guy like that. I knew someone like that character too. Like it was like really like, oh, this is dialed in.
Right. I mean, you might have been the same age as the young kid in it, right? I think he was like 13.
Well, because like I was trying when I was watching that movie, I was really trying to, because it never says exactly what the year is, but this is
Right.
the only thing that I would say. Like in my mind, I would have said that movie was give or take 95, 96. But the only reason I said that movie might be 1998 is because there's a part where one of the kids is playing a PlayStation and he's got a DualShock controller, and the DualShock controller came out in 1998. No, that sounds like the most like nerd facts to get in there. Like,
They might have fucked up.
but I'll say this, I think they more fucked up than actually I think they just got the wrong controller instead of, but I don't really believe it's 1998
Yeah, because if it was the you mean the DualShock with the sticks, right?
with the sticks.
Yeah, then yeah, because I remember they were playing Twisted Metal in the movie, and yeah,
Because
yeah, my
I think
bad.
they're playing like Twisted Metal 2. I don't think they're playing Twisted Metal 3, because Twisted Metal 3, whenever I think of that one being played, that's in Big Daddy. But well, a lot of times that's how I
Classic.
remember. I remember like every time you see like a video game mentioned in like an old movie, or like it's also like in Charlie's Angels. There's a scene. I think it's on the second one though, but I could be wrong. It could be the first one. But there's a scene. It's the most bizarre one where there's two kids playing Final Fantasy VIII, but they're playing, but they have two controllers in their hands. So like nobody did their research on what type of game that one's playing.
Yeah, it's always funny. Like, they'll just have. I've seen movies where it's like whatever the fuck, and then they'll just have a Nintendo 64 controller, and then on top of that, they'll be holding it wrong. It's like, what kind of psycho holds it like a regular controller and then reaches their thumb over for the D-pad or the stick? It's like you're a fucking maniac.
Well, my biggest problem is like this is what I think about, because it's like, okay, it's a movie set. So how many people are standing around there? Like, oh, like the 40 people stand there, not one person knows how a controller works. You know what I mean? Like, it would be different. Like,
Yeah.
I would give it a pass if it was only like two or three people making it. Like, okay, I kind of get it. Two or three people, they're probably like in like their 40s at that time period. They have no idea. They just know that the producer said throw a controller in there, whatever. But like, out of everybody in there, come on, come on.
Well, I remember when I was a kid, or I was in high school, and my friend was in a play, and in the play he had to smoke a cigarette, and I was like trying to explain to him like, well, if you can't just like run out there and like hold it like you're holding it, because he had like two of his fingers extended, and I was like, bro, you're holding that cigarette like a fucking lady. Like, why are you like? And then I was like, here, hold it like this, like be casual about it. And then he was like, no, I don't think anyone's gonna notice. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And then that was like the first notice. She's like, our liberal ass fucking theater teacher was like, why are you holding that like a bitch? Like you look like a fucking lady right now. You like, is there a way that you could hold that like like not after having sex with a dude? Like, is there a
Yeah, it's like one of those ones where it's like, no. People, those little things are noticed, and like anything, you're never going to be able to catch them all. That's like sometimes stuff just happens, and that's just kind of how it is. But like, no, like you got to get those kind of parts kind of dialed in, and it's what's going to bring out the true acting is when you get it, that you get the actual feel.
it's like just put the game on mute and have them play it off screen, like because then you get like the people going like. It's like, and you look fucking ridiculous. Like you're playing Halo.
Yeah. Well, the thing too is funny. A lot of other people like they would always make video games out like it was like such like a like almost like athletic experience of movement and motion. And it's like realistically, if you watch people play video games is a very like subtle, almost meditation like. More experience where you're in the zone and like your moves are very like quick and nimble, and you use only the amount of energy that you possibly need, unless maybe it's like getting intense and you're playing Ninja Gaiden or something like that, but still.
I dated this girl a while back, and I tried to explain to her how to like play video games, and every once in a while she'd do something correct. I'm like, oh shit, and she's like, I don't know what I'm doing, and then I'd be like, wait, why are you pressing that button? It doesn't do anything, and you've learned this. Like, are you incapable of learning? Why can't
you've learned this, damn it! Like, what's wrong with you?
It's like Adam Sandler talking to the golf ball. It's like, that's your home. Don't you want to go to your home?
You're too good for your home. Well, you know what's the weird thing too, when you see almost someone playing video games kind of for the first time, and you kind of, I feel like if anybody growing up playing video games their whole life, you kind of take it for granted because you just like your experiences just sort of roll together and you sort of learned everything as time is going on. But it's almost like one of the biggest ones I always notice is if someone doesn't generally play video games and they have the twin sticks operation in their hand, whether it be a first person shooter or even if they're just kind of operating the camera with the right stick, it's like that one right there is always the one where it takes a big moment to get kind of used to that. Like you can't just jump into that kind of style of game and just be ready to go. Like there is almost like hours upon hours that need to be put into like kind of feeling that flow.
Yeah, it is funny to see like I don't know. I feel like that people don't do it's like if like someone was playing guitar in a movie and they were just like just doing whatever, like not even like you play the song on the set and then just have them do what they think it would sound like, like I don't know. Video games are kind of a more easier experience for that. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like one of those with the guitar. It's like you got to get your actors at least like a month's worth of guitar lessons to get them at least. They don't have to make the sound come out of it, but they should at least just look like they know what they're doing.
Right. Yeah. Do you have any short films or anything like? Cause you were saying that you've done like commercials and ads before.
Yeah, I have some just, for like little real estate companies, and I have some concert ones I've done for certain like bands. So I could pull some of that stuff up and send them all over to you and whatnot. And even there's some stuff that's like old YouTube videos and stuff that's, back behind all the podcasts and so on there. So there is all sorts of stuff. But, But yeah, as I said, like video, like I love making movies and, video editing and all that kind of good stuff. The one always this is the one other downfall I've kind of like thought about in like the longer run. Like I didn't think about it when I was younger, but like this is almost what makes comic books kind of like nice compared to like movies. Though is like the only downfall always in movies is that there's always something else to always buy when making movies. Where like the upside to making comic books is like you sort of buy like you like what do you need? Realistically, at the end of the day, you need a computer, something to draw on, and some software, and that's pretty much about it. Like with like $1,000 or less, you can have everything you need for like literally like the next 10 years plus, as long as like your computer and your hardware hold out.
Right. And it's all about like both require you to give up your time, but like with comics, it's you are like you're the visuals and the like with film, you can kind of distribute things amongst like five people, but with comic books, like minimum it's like or maximum it's like two or three. Like if you're bougie enough to have like someone who's an inker,
Yeah.
for three. Like
Yeah. You might have a couple people, or you might have a colorist or something like that. You can have a team, but you can still keep it kind of
right.
small. It's almost like the other one too that I almost feels like the other, kind of, I guess you would say, creative art that I think is almost like the most pure of them all. And I say that pure by being like the most simplistic, but like in the nicest way, is even if you're someone who just writes straight up novels. Because I mean, like, yeah, it's a lot of writing, of course, and there's all that
Yeah.
there, but it's like all you need is your keyboard and a typing program. Like you could just use Microsoft Word or whatever the heck you decide you want to use, and you just go to town. And what do? You write. And what do you do more? You write some more, and you continue writing. It's like you don't have that kind of multi-stage job. Like I just always think, even a comic book, even though a comic book, it is what it is, but there's still the multitude. There's the writing, then there's the penciling, then there's sort of the inking, the toning, the coloring, if you have that, the lettering and editing and so on, and putting it together and getting it ready for print. Where I feel like the upside to like writing is it's just like you just straight write, especially for like novels. You just write some more, and write some more again. That's all. That's all. You're in one mode the whole time, and you just hit it hard.
Right. And then like I don't know if you've ever been like it's been 3 hours and you're like, all right, dope, that was an excellent writing session. And then you look, it's like, oh, that's fucking 8 pages. Like it's been 3 hours and my brain can only produce 8 pages. That's upsetting. Maybe I just overthink and pre-plan when like the process should just like flow. But like
Mm-hmm.
it is that was the time I'm specifically mentioning was a solid flow, but like it's just like it's not like I've been working on this like Clerks 3 video lately, and I sat through the movie and just marked all the moments of times that I needed to make notes. And I noticed that like it turned an hour and a half long movie into like a 3.5 hour long session of me pausing and writing notes. But it was a set objective. It wasn't like I had to figure out what I needed to do. But like when you're writing a story, it's like you are the master of this entire universe, and you have to figure out exactly like God, especially with dialogue. Oh fuck me. Like dialogue is not conversation. Like you can't, and you usually can't think of dialogue as regular conversation because characters and people aren't the same. Like characters have motivations that need to wrap up within a certain amount of time, and like they have to interact with each other and push towards a specific thing. You can't just have them like say fucking whatever, and people say that your dialogue is bad like if it's too lean towards character and plot versus like who they actually are as people. So there's like a balance act that has to happen when you're like working with this, and it's stressful sometimes, to say the least.
Yeah, like the ways that I guess the way that I sort of go about writing now, of course, a lot of times before I kind of write something, I feel like I have thought about it for quite some time. I've taken notes, and it kind of like simmers and boils and whatnot. And then when I go to write, like I kind of write like in sprinting kind of zones. Like I'll write really hard for like, let's just say like an hour to 2 hours. And then once I get that point where I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm kind of running out of juice, I stop there, and I'll come back like the next day, and then I'll write again and write real hard. And comic book wise, I can pretty much write an issue generally in about 2 to 3 days easily, like, and have the thing generally even almost even edited and rewritten, like, and kind of have it ready to go. And but granted, I have been thinking about it for quite some time, so I think that also makes a difference there too. It's not like it's coming just straight from like right then and there, but I like that kind of way. Like once I feel like it's kind of petering out, take a break. I mean, you can come back to it maybe even later in the day, but like once it feels like it's just feeling kind of off, like don't try to. I feel like don't try to forcefully keep throwing things in there, because sometimes there's a point where you do that and then you're like, I mean, every once in a while I will try those things where it's like, okay, I just need to get the story going, and I'll worry about how like the dialogue. I'll kind of buff up the dialogue later down the line. I just need some words that kind of fill in the void that will at least make it like progress forward.
Yeah, I guess focusing on like I need character A and character B to get to location A, like because that's where my outline is and that's where it needs to be. But fucking when you focus too hard on things like that, it kind of starts to fuck with you. Like it's just, and you like overthink, and when you don't know exactly what needs to be said at the moment, you kind of, or at least for me, like it is better to focus on like moving forward, and then you can go back and like proofread and like rewrite things. I think problem that I've had a lot in the past as a writer is just like obsessing over the first draft being perfect, and like not like being able to say, okay, I'm gonna go in and then look at the first draft, but I'm not gonna like edit the first draft. I'm just gonna rewrite it all out, and then like because even like Tekell issue 2, I was starting to write that, and then sometimes I'll come back to it and I'll think like, why did I write all the fucking everyone like a sitcom character? Like, why are they talking like this? And then other times I'll be like, okay, this is funny shit, but maybe it doesn't fit what I'm doing. I was just in a mood that day. Like, but then I'm like, what else goes here then? Like it seemed like the perfect thing for these people to say, and I like just I don't know. That's just the way my brain works, and it's fucking difficult sometimes.
Well, yeah, there is always that thing is you guys sometimes stop and go, wait a second, what type of story am I writing again? Because like on my latest Pizza Boys one, because on the new arc I've sort of done, well, I guess the other ones aren't really in an arc. So the first arc, I guess, of this is giving it something a little bit different. And I have 7 issues of a continual, in a sense, arc instead of being episodic, where they're on like in a sense, a kung fu martial arts adventure in the vein of like 80s, 90s American style ninja type movies. And there was a point when I was writing it, like by about issue 3 or 4 or somewhere around there, maybe even 5, where I was just like, I don't think there's been a joke in like the last like 10 pages. I'm like, wait a second. Like I got almost too into like the martial arts, almost feeling like a manga style thing here. And I'm like, wait a second. It's got to still be at the first and foremost. It's a comedy, and the action needs to almost be second once again. Like don't get, but I think I was just almost kind of getting into it because I just felt like I was going in a different avenue anyways than like the kind of normal Pizza Boys thing that like, it was just fun to kind of go down this road and see where it was taking me. But all of a sudden, I'm like, wait a second, have I fallen out and lost like the main, at least vibe of the story?
I mean, that's to reference what you were saying earlier, even a good reason to have multiple outlets for what you make. Like, it's good to have like, maybe you have the comedy driven comic, but a drama related TV show like concept. Even if you're not going to use it, then it's good to have like or like action, horror, like you can't always marry yourself to one concept.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And you know, it's like with myself, I like the broad spectrum of all kinds of genres and so on. And this even kind of goes back to what you were saying actually earlier when you're talking to that one dude and he said, "Hey, you know, maybe you should just do one shot as of like different series instead of kind of having the epic as kind of like the first one." And I've even thought about that myself too. There's kind of something to be said because there's a couple guys I know that have like the way that they've made their comic book series is they just have like they have like three different series, but they just have like kind of single issues of each one. And then like it almost seems like whatever people kind of gravitate to, that's where they go to like, okay, I'll make another issue of that one then, you know? And there's something kind of nice about that there is that I feel like when people come up to your booth or whatever, at least like a Comic-Con, is that you could be like, oh, I got three different ones here. Here's my horror story. Here's my comedy story. Here's my adventure story or what have you. And you kind of have some choices. It lets you kind of expand because, I mean, even though as overall I like Pizza Boys, I do kind of feel like at some point it'd be kind of like nice to be like, okay, it'd be nice to just try something else that was kind of completely different. Let Pizza Boys keep doing its thing and then have something different there. And I have a couple script ideas I've been kind of working on for something new. I mean, if I go back to the vault, of course, I got a handful of scripts I could kind of pull from, but there's one I've been kind of thinking back in the back of my mind that's like, well, this would be kind of fun where it'd be something different. It's not, it has to be Pizza Boys. You know, I'm not exactly sure 100% what I would do if I'd make it just straight up comic book or what kind of story to go with it or write it only, maybe not draw it, or I don't know. Sometimes the only thing is I've gotten to the point where it's like I kind of like my drawings a lot. I know I'm not the greatest artist, but I feel like I like the way mine looks. At least it doesn't look like anybody else's.
Yeah, and I mean you've definitely grown as an artist. Like even today I was referencing from issue 1 to what your most recent one that I got, the beginning of the ninja arc, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like you look at the difference between like issue 1 to there, like it's almost like equivalent of like looking at South Park episode 1 to like the newer episodes. It's like night and day almost.
Right.
How different it becomes.
Like new South Park characters don't look as like blocky. Like
Yeah, they don't have the cutout look anymore on a lot of them. They look actually like regular animated characters.
Yeah. Yeah. Like sorry.
But yeah, that's the kind of the thing is like there's something to be said about like yeah, and I know that's almost like the thing. If you read probably like anything that tells you on a writing book, it would say like, "Hey, write down like a bunch of short stories instead of going for like a big one or a big epic one." And that was almost the same way they would say of like movies, like do a bunch of short films before you go for a full length movie. And when I was growing up, it just felt like no man, like full length movies was all that like we were into. And the things that I would look at was like, well, there's El Mariachi, there's Clerks, there's The Evil Dead, there's like these are all these movies. There's that I'm drawing a blank on it, but there's Vin Diesel's first movie that he like wrote, directed, and produced for like $50,000, and like there's all these ones you're like, it's like this is like the thing. This is what I see is this is what I want to do.
Right, which is I think even Stallone was the one who funded the first Rocky, and it's what made him a movie star. But like now, the scene seems to be like horror short films. Like Lights Out started off as a short film, and like that was great. Like the movie was okay, but the short film was fantastic, and it was able to get his name out there. I know there's a second one. I think it might have been like Insidious or something, but like there's this movie called The Dirties about like you'll love it. It's about like two kids that make a movie for like their class, and it just feels so authentically like they look like two high school kids. They don't look like fucking movie actors that they put glasses
25
on.
years old.
Right. Like I think they were both like 19 when they made the movie, and it's found footage, and like for me, a lot of the acting feels authentic. Like they're like, I never thought of it as acting. It honestly always felt like it's two people like interacting as if they were fucking kids. Like they were naturally, and like the movie sends a curveball. Like I'd like don't look at any like descriptions of it, because it's I don't want to spoil it for you. It's great.
So, well, I personally love watching movies with like little to no information on what it is. That almost makes for a better experience.
Right. Like, cause like, trailers these days damn near summarize the entire fucking movie. Like,
God, yeah,
which
they have the short. Pretty much, it feels like there's the entire movie summed up in 2.5 minutes.
yeah, it's like, and the way that they used to do it was like they would have the narrator damn near describe the whole fucking movie. It's like, no, just tell me the premise. Tell me what you told the people when you were trying to get it pitched, except the last 3 sentences.
Yeah,
Like, that's all you got to do.
The last act of the movie should never be in the trailer. Never should be in the trailer. None of that should be in the trailer. And that's why a lot of times I always feel like a movie poster sometimes is like the best one. Like movie poster is like all I need to know. Like if you can't explain it on a movie poster properly, like that should be all the descriptions needed.
Like the movie The Lamb, like throughout most of it, it's hiding the fact that the kid is like a lamb, like a half human, half lamb kid. But the trailer it fucking shows that off like multiple times. Like, why are it's almost like you got screwed by your publicity department or the people that make the fucking trailer.
Yeah, God, and there was a time period where like I remember it was so bad because I think it was like 2 Terminators ago, the one where John Connor ended up being like an evil John Connor in it, and it's like they showed that in the trailer, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like that change right there would have been so shocking if you didn't know it,
Right.
know, or the one that was almost like the one of the worst ones was the Batman v Superman one because it literally gave you act 1, 2, and 3 all in the trailer. Like everything was spoiled for you. I mean, granted, like don't get me wrong, I still like the movie at the end of the day once you get the extended cut and all that good stuff in there. But that trailer was like, dude, it's like, no, like the whole time I'm like, I hope there's just something that's just going to be the real surprise. And it's like, nope, they showed everything.
Right. Like, I remember, well, they might just say fuck it now because back in the day they or not that far back in the day, like Last of Us 2, they released that and the trailer like tried its hardest to make you think that Joel was in more of the game, but like some fucking jerk off leaked the entire or at least leaked that one plot point when it's like they put all the effort or like Avengers Infinity War had a trailer where Hulk was in it, but the actual movie has Hulkbuster and he never turns into the Hulk. Like they try their damn hardest to fucking make these movies not spoiled, but like fucking there's always someone who goes on goddamn 4chan or something like and tries to like I don't know. For me, like I would like to know but when someone is like a company is trying their hardest to not get something announced, it's like, well, that's their fucking business, man. Not only is it their personal business, but that's their livelihood is making like entertainment for you dick.
Yeah. And there must always just be some disgruntled employee or something like that just is what throws it off. Or there's some people that like chaos no matter what.
Oh yeah. Or I guess people that just don't care. At this point, if someone goes on 4chan right now and is like, they're saying Earthbound or Mother 3 is going to be on the Switch Online service, it's like, don't do that. Don't give me hope.
Yeah, exactly. It's like one of those ones, at some point, but it's like the weird thing is too, is with so many of those things, it's like, I know it's getting back to that Nintendo thing, but it's just like, yeah, you hold on to that for so long. There's going to become a point where like the people that are going to really want that are all going to be dead. You know what I mean? That's what I always think about. Like, your target audience only lasts for so long, Like
it's like all the people waiting on the Blu-ray for Song of the South.
Yeah, they're not getting it yet. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just one of those ones. And there's so many things like that. And I always kind of feel like I feel if a company's not going to release something that was already kind of released, I feel like by that point it should just become public domain. Like if you're not going to do it, you shouldn't just be able to hold on to it like that. If you already released it one place, and you're not going to make it for something else. No. By all means, I feel like let the people decide and have it. But it just seems silly not to have that kind of going there. But
I mean, there's still no word on when Mother 4 had to change its name to Oddity and take all the Earthbound stuff out of it. It like I swear to God, they like right before COVID, they were like, it'll come out when it's ready. And then COVID hit and it's fucking like 3 or 4 years later, and we're still I think that game was announced like as a concept in like probably 2014, like 2013.
Well, it's amazing sometimes how long it takes certain guys to put games together. Like I always give credit. Like that's something that like especially those games where they're only made by like 1 or 2 or 3 people like that. Like that to me is like a very cool dedication, and I'm always like really impressed by that kind of stuff. It's just one of those ones like that. That's something that like the one I felt like as far as multimedia goes, I've done just about every avenue I could kind of think of in there, but like I've always sort of wanted to do making games / programming is like the 2 things that I felt like it was like the only thing I really didn't learn a ton about, just a little bit, but nothing else to take home on it. But sometimes I like every once in a while I go, gosh, just that being able to make a game with like 1 or 2 people, like, because there's so many games. It's like Axiom Verge. Like that game was fantastic, made by like one guy and like a musician, or even like the Retro City Rampage guy. Like, I mean, he worked on that thing for like 10 years.
I mean, it paid off for him. I mean, sure he just sits around and collects the domain for Retro City Rampage. And did they make a sequel?
Yeah, the sequel is totally awesome. I thought the sequel was amazing. I can't remember what the hell it's called, but I played the living daylights out of it on Switch when it came out. But yeah, it's like that, or it's like the guy who's making more money than anybody else on the planet for like in a sense like the one game is the Stardew Valley guy. Holy crap!
Oh yeah.
Because I think that game was made by like one main guy with maybe a couple others like for small stuff, but like that right there, it's like one of those ones like. That game just probably turns every day. There's probably $10,000 checks coming in.
It is weird to think like because Undertale like even bigger than Stardew Valley. I'd say like the guy like he made Deltarune and then he made like Chapter 2 and he's just like slowly, and it took him a while to make Deltarune, but like when you look at Five Nights at Freddy's. Dude pumped out games like I think the fucking second game came out like I don't know like 4 months after the first one, something ridiculous like that, like a crazy like short amount of time to just pump out a second game. But I guess it's just like your confidence in your following for the game that you've made. Like even though Five Nights has a huge fan base, it's hard to say that like do you think it would have faded out if he didn't keep in touch with his fan base and continue making like, I don't know, what are like 16 games now?
Yeah, exactly. I think there's something to be said there. And it's probably the thing is that once you make that first one, you kind of, that's where you learn all the ropes and everything like that. I think you're like, okay, well, I'm kind of like, it took me a long time to figure out how to make all that stuff. Because a lot of those guys, it's like you'll hear them on interviews and they'll talk and be like, yeah, I knew nothing about making games before I made that first game. Like I learned everything in that 5 to 10 year process that I spent on it, and I always think that stuff's always kind of cool. And, it's motivational just in like, I just feel like storytelling doesn't matter where it comes from is always kind of like motivational when you hear that kind of stuff.
It is nice to hear someone like, it almost sounds like luck that someone's first project was their hit. Like it's like I don't know, it's like just right place right time kind of thing, or it's exactly like sometimes you just need to hit the market with what people want at the time that they want it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then there's other stories. I mean, this is old timey making games, but like I think it's like John Romero of Doom. He made like Doom was like his 90th game or something like that.
Oh shit, yeah. Well,
Now, granted, like, probably like the first 50 games he made, they would have been those kind of games that you could kind of make in like a weekend, little quick
right.
short ones, So, I mean, that is a little bit different, but still, it kind of goes like that's the other way around where it's like it built all up to that,
It
Doom
is
was a hit because he
experience.
put all the time into it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it is good to just know, like, get feedback for what you make and have the feedback that you get not be from the entire internet or from a full release, but you want the feedback of like your peers and people that work in a similar field. So you don't, my bad, I muted myself.
I know I saw that. Like he got so excited he muted himself.
Move my hand. I don't know what happened. Plug came out, but you hear from people who know what they're talking about. Like it's not just like a bunch of like people that are keyboard warriors, randoms.
Yeah. Yeah, it something's like the other interesting one too that the interesting avenue, it doesn't matter what you're kind of doing, but it's like I always am interested on how someone kind of goes about their marketing because especially nowadays everything's kind of changing and I think more and more people are getting there's less things that like people will pay certain money for compared to other things like that. It's almost like video. Back in the day it used to be you would sell a video. Well, you don't really sell a video anymore. Now a video you mostly rely off either advertisements and other things to kind of get it going. I think that's one of the nice things that does make a comic book kind of nice is people still like that are into comics still they like to buy a physical copy and things like that, but there's so many other places where things are falling into like even like like what are you going to pay for? Are you going to pay for this, or do you want to be on like on a membership type program or something like that?
Well, it's unfortunate because a lot of things now, it's like everything is starting to become devalued as it is just everywhere. Like the more available something is, the less value it has. Like when people like I get it now, but when people were mad about AI art because it sounds like a slippery slope. It sounds like why are we making AI material for things that humans like to do? Like it'd be nice if AI was for things that we don't want to do, or but the way that I first started getting it was when like I like the videos where Joe Rogan AI is arguing with Ben Shapiro AI about fucking Ben 10 lore, but
or
like,
Sonic the Hedgehog. Like,
oh,
God, I've seen some of those. I laughed so hard.
I think my favorite one is the beach that makes you old. If you haven't seen it, it is.
I don't know if I've seen that one, but I'll have to check that out.
It's fucking hilarious. But my point, it kind of like, is Rick and Morty going to be voiced by AI now? It's a legitimate question that the answer might be yes. Like if like the only problem is like I don't know, or even Elon Musk was on something. He was like, "Oh yeah, check it out. You can see right here that it I can press this button and I start sounding like Kermit the Frog, and then the rest of the online conversation is like now you can just press a button and sound like a cartoon character on Skype. It's like it's like dehumanizing for human interaction. Like it's less authentic, and that even traces back to the difference between online communication and in-person communication. It's like you like we can't have like it's not one to one. Even if it was video chat, you don't see the body language. Like our souls aren't in the same room, you know.
You don't have that feeling that there's there of like
Right.
all the little nuances that you kind of get, and that's what I think. It's like even with those things too, it's like there's a time and place for anything. Like like those AI things. It's like if you're just making funny comedy videos, I think they work great. Where you just to see what the computer puts together is almost very interesting in itself. Like that's kind of part of the joke is like what's the computer going to put together, But yeah, there's other stuff like that. But I think at the same time, this still even with the AI, I know there's like some people that get such fear coming up from it because they fear anything that's futuristic and so on. But I
Mhm.
think no matter what, people still always desire like that handcraftedness. Like that never really seems to fall out of favor. People are always way more impressed. It's someone who builds a chair, a wooden chair with their bare hands. No matter how far it gets in the future and how good a robot can put that together and all that kind of stuff. Like someone's always going to be impressed by like, oh man, you handcrafted, put that together. You know?
Mhm. Yeah, it's just but like as far as like I don't know, there's a lot of people that don't value like like things of that nature. I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like they hmm sorry, I'm trying to find the words.
Is it kind of like the equivalent of like when all like the corporate big box stores sort of started appearing and it kind of was knocking away the mom and pop stores and people just kind of said, hey, I'd rather just go to Walmart or
Yeah.
Target because hey, it's cheaper here, half the price, whatever. And before long all those other stores just fell off the face of the earth. And it's really that one that I always feel like nowadays, like a mom and pop store this day and age is a novelty store. It is not a realistic business anymore. It is all based off novelty and novelty alone because they
Yeah.
literally the people made the decision and they said, no, I'll take the corporate, store over the mom and
Because
pop
it's
shop.
cheaper even. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of nice to interact with someone and have it be a human interaction versus like some like either miserable adult or like a teenager with less options is like I don't know like I've wanted to go to like the original McDonald's. Like I was watching the founder,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, I wonder what that burger tastes like because it's not at all like the shit that we're eating now.
Yeah.
Like it was like when McDonald's was like 3 locations, but it's like the more options that are out there, the least value. Like having a recording of yourself and your family used to be a very like special thing, but it's like now everyone records fucking everything. Everyone takes pictures constantly. So now like that's where the rise of these fucking hipsters with their their Polaroid repos, like those are more popular. They're coming out more because it's like it feels like a significant thing, like a physical item, like it's not
Yeah.
just like the billion fucking like photos you have on your phone. It's like an actual thing that you can hold with your hands. Like it's like the difference between streaming and going to a video store. Have you been to the there's video stores in Oregon? You've been to those?
I've been to some video stores in Oregon. I can't say what specifically.
Let's see, Movie Madness.
I don't know if I've been to that one.
They got it's dope, but like I didn't rent anything because I didn't live there, so I just bought a bunch of merch. But like you walk around and they have a bunch of like film props. Like you could obviously tell that this was like at least to me, I'd say that they should get like a tax break because it's damn near like a religious experience. Like
Well, and that's what I mean. Is like those places like that. They're running off novelty. They're not necessarily running
yeah,
off like that. You know what I mean. It's like their purpose. And don't get me wrong. It's like I love all that kind of stuff because this is all like what I'm into. But like it is one of those ones. It's like nobody technically needs any of this stuff anymore. You're only buying it because this is the cool, different way to kind of go about it. And it is true. I feel like those things that they need to be put almost there, kind of like a variation of like a museum, like
right.
kind of like in that kind of bracket. They're like, hey, no, we need to keep this kind of stuff alive. It goes the same thing with like arcades or even things like bowling alleys and amusement parks, because I feel like those stuff like that's even left and right kind of falling off the face of the earth too.
Bro, you got to go to Portland. Like, if you've ever been to, you've been to Coin Up, like in Sacramento,
Yeah, I've been to that one.
booty cheeks, absolute ass. Like you go there, they're fucking their Mortal Kombat cabinet. Like the left one don't work, and the stick won't go. Like it won't go left. I swear to God, the stick will not. So some moves you can't even do. So like, but if you go to there's this one in Oregon. I loved it. It was across the it was around same area, like 7 minutes away from Movie Madness. The place has Ninja Baseball Batman. Like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't even know that a person could find that cabinet. Like, why do you, they have like Rampage and Marvel vs. Capcom 2 that works? Like,
Oh God,
it's
I haven't seen a
nuts.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2 that works since literally Las Vegas. Because back in the
Mhm.
day, Las Vegas used to be like the glory center. Like when I was a kid, like in about the late '90s down there, it was so because you would just walk to any casino and every casino had a good arcade. Like it's like nobody could skimp out on that.
Mhm. It's I mean, it's kind of sad because like you're walking around this place and um all the games run for 1 quarter, I'm pretty sure, and then you're just like fucking like I don't mean to sound like a crotchety old boomer, but like the kids charge their phone and then they got hella game. It's like all these garbage ass like brain stimulation games when it's like um having the focus of something be like I don't know, like when the focus is all on one thing and you can interact with people in a room, it feels a hell of a lot different than like sometimes we'll put something on and then I'll talk to my friend like, bro, why are you like you're just cooling on your phone the whole time? Like, why are you even here? It's like we're like, it's like, well, the TV's on, like you're watching the TV. It's like, yeah, but we are interacting about the TV. Like we can watch something else, but like it's like when your focal point is on one thing versus just like it's like you can go on your phone at home and just like zonk out and just sit there and let it determine what will make you happy and give you a bunch of stimulation, or you can like you can watch a movie and be bored. Like, what I'm saying? Like, if you're bored,
Mm-hmm.
then congratulations, you're living the fucking experience. You're supposed to be bored. Like,
Oh,
you're supposed to be bored at times. You're supposed to, like, grow and do shit. Like, you can't just always, like, oh, I'm going to start playing fucking Injustice 2 on my phone.
yeah. Well, to me, it's like one of those ones. I do always think that's like you're supposed to pull your phone out like when you're sitting in like a waiting room and you're by yourself. Like that's what it's for.
Right.
It's one of the greatest things ever to kind of because before you used to just sit there and if you're lucky there was a magazine rack or something like that and that would be they'd probably all kind of be nothing you cared about, but at least it would pass the time. But like that's one of the things that's so nice about that is the phone's great for like when you're by yourself and you need to kill time, perfect. But like if you're together with somebody else, it's almost like one of those ones like when you would see people like that, like they'd come over to hang out and then they're just on their phone. It's just like, well, you might as well just go home. I kind of hate to sort of say it, but we're not hanging out anymore, or
Right.
certain people like they bring by like their girlfriend or something like that, and then they would just still be sitting there on their phone, and it's just like like especially if you're watching a movie too. Like if you're watching a movie, it's like you're either all in or not at all. I don't think there is no in between. And to get that true film experience, you can't have your phone there. That's just wrong.
Right. And it's like I remember there's this story. My friend tried to show my other friend Dumb and Dumber, and
Uh-huh.
because he found out he'd never seen it, and then he goes on his phone the whole time, and he's like I swear to God, it's like he goes, "Hey, oh, yo, this part's funny," and then he's like looking down, he's like, the thing is happening, and then goes, oh, and then looks back down. It's like, bro, you fucking like
You're
you
not
can't do
watching.
that for a comedy.
You're not here. You literally are not here. Like if you're doing that, like, and it's weird because like, and a lot of times too, like sometimes the people that are like they're on their phone their whole time. It's like I kind of hate to say it, but it's like you're not running your own business or something like that. What are you doing on there? You have nothing important. You're probably doing. I know you're not educating yourself, and I know you're not doing your own business. So what are you seriously doing?
Bro, you're experiencing colors and sound of fucking nonsense. It's just a bunch of like never get a TikTok girlfriend. Don't be dating those girls that do nothing but watch fucking TikTok or like get
Oh,
all their information from TikTok. It's like, yeah, I you know that you're right about your fucking constant it's like you just go to like the way things are right now, people can just go to imright.com and find whatever the fuck someone said that like supports their fucking idea. But before it was like you actually had to fucking think and remember shit.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
Oh well, it's like it's great that you can look stuff up, but like at the same time, like the other thing
right.
too is like like you when you'd be driving somewhere with somebody, and then you go, hey, I wonder what's over in there, and then you start piecing it together because you're using your imagination to try to figure out what it is, even if it's not even correct. What your imagination is actually saying is actually the more correct answer than whatever it actually is in there because you've used a creative thought. You didn't just look up what somebody else did, and it's almost you didn't have to think whatsoever.
It honestly feels like there's a war on the human experience. Like the only thing that is left once your life is entirely dependent on just feel good stimulation. The only thing that's left is feeling shitty. That is the most relatable thing now is feeling shitty is the like the last remaining thing of the human experience, and the thing that makes a lot of people feel shitty is the moment their fucking like stimulation things aren't available, like phone or fucking like I don't know, just random shit.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of experiences that are totally being missed out on. And they're just not, it's even the thing too, is a lot of people too. It's like, yeah, it's weird. It's like we have so much great stuff. Like realistically, we live in such a golden age. If you really do think about it, we have all kinds of like the selections of movies that you have just to be able to search out and watch and like not have to
Right.
worry too much about them, and foreign movies and all this stuff that used to be next to impossible to find. You can pretty much easily access, and then there's always somebody who's got to kind of bitch and complain about like, what's going on. It's like sometimes it's like I always like to stop and think and go, man, like when I was a kid and I saw somebody who had like a portable TV that had like, it was like a 3-inch screen and it took like probably like 8 AA batteries and it had an antenna on it. I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. Like it was like, what?
Right.
That is so mind blowing. Or I remember like on the Sega Game Gear, they made a little TV unit you could plug into it. That was just so cool. And it's like now you think about like you gotta still always think about like your phone. Like if your phone doesn't blow your mind every single time you pull it out, you gotta stop and go, wait a second. Always be respectful of the technology and how cool it is to be able to have all this abilities and stuff like that, But then also be able to know when to have, you got all this great stuff, but then when do you need just the old fashioned, purely it's like the conversation stuff is I think that's so important. And I've been kind of saying it on the podcast recently because it was like in the last while, I just kind of got to this point in life where I was like, shit, I'm just working on stuff. And it's like, I really don't see people or hang out with people like at all. Like, and it's weird working on something like Pizza Boys where you literally have drawn a book about a bunch of people hanging out together. And it's like, when was the last time you really saw somebody? Like, let's be honest, right. Not like an interaction like you went to the grocery store and you talked to the person at the checkout counter. No, that doesn't count. I mean, like full on serious like hangouts. And it is that one. It's like it's the weird thing too is like the farther you get in time, there becomes sort of less of them because I mean other people I think kind of they always say they're busy, but I think it becomes sort of more of a lazier excuse and so on like that sometimes. I mean, not saying that some of them aren't true, but and people start moving away or going different places and they're not in the same things. And yeah, it's all of a sudden you get to this point you're like, whoa, like I need to get some hangouts going. And that was kind of the thing. I was like, no, I gotta make sure every weekend, I don't care what it is, if it's not in person, doing a podcast with somebody, even if I have to play video games online, so be it. At least it's some form of a let's get together, hang out, chat, and do all that good stuff.
Right. I mean, it's better than nothing, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take the real in-person one. Like, that's even better. Like, hey, if there's a place to go meet up with and hang out, like, I am all game for that, But if not, I'll take the second best option.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it is good to get yourself out there. I think a good comparison would be kind of like the part in Clerks where he's like hold on, let me borrow your car. I want to go to the video store. It's like, you work in a video store. I work in a shitty video store. I want to go to a good video store so I can get a good movie. Like that's honestly how I'd compare it. Like as far as like I don't know, because it's there, but it's not like when you're spoiled for choice, like you could literally talk to anyone at any time, like or do you can watch any movie, but like um I think there's a study that's like that results in decision fatigue, where it's like if you're given more than 12 options, your brain starts to just say fuck it and then grab whatever. Like that's why they have the candy bars at the end of the grocery stores, because odds are you've grabbed enough items and then at the end you're just like sure, like because the odds of sure and no, and those are the two options, those are pretty good options if you are dealing with, addictive substances like caffeine or sugar. It's like
Hmm.
those are pretty good odds as far as the sales go. But like you always gotta stick with what you have. Like if you're not bored, you're not creative. Like if you're never bored, then you don't have any room to create, like blank paper. Like my nephew the other day he was looking at my ukulele and he was like, "Can I play that?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And then I was like, like he wants to like expand. He's 6, but like he has he wants to expand beyond being a fucking iPad kid. And am I going to be the one who is too lazy to fucking like try and show him that there's more to the earth than just like stimming?
Hmm.
Like, I don't know.
Well, it's good you mentioned that boredom thing, because that is very true. Is being bored, that's where a lot of times creative ideas actually start to stem from. Is because yeah, if life is filled with way too many things, next thing you know, you're on somebody else's roller coaster the whole time, and you're not building your own in a sense. But like when you're bored, and you sometimes it's like there is something to be said about just like sometimes just sitting there with nothing better to do, and then all of a sudden ideas start to kind of come to you. Your brain starts now actually working on the creative part. In a sense, it's like your mind is trying to entertain you, and that's what you sort of
Mhm.
want.
Right. It's like if and now it kind of feels like if you have an idea, then you can go online and figure out that it already fucking exists. Like that's the problem with the internet. That's really the like a big problem, is that fucking like someone's already done it, and if you don't have like that part of your brain that just says like, okay, you don't want to look up, like anything related to what you've already made, because you don't want to go into the process of like, oh, I'm gonna make it but not do that.
Yeah.
Instead, like you want to have your own original ideas, and then just kind of hope that someone in Britain hasn't already made something called Dennis the Menace. Like you just hope, but like sometimes wacky things just happen. Like with the internet, like two people creating Dennis the Menace would have been like a a war between like plagiarism, but at the moment it was like they had an ocean between them, and like how the hell did they know about each other? They didn't,
Yeah.
and their
Well,
comics came out like 2 days apart.
yeah, and like I feel like that kind of stuff can happen all the time, because I always say if one person has one idea, that means there's at least a good amount of people that have that same idea. That's why a lot of times whenever they're like they'll say that some like they'll talk about like some like inventor or something like that. They go, oh, if this person didn't invent this, how would the world be today? I'm like, well, somebody else would have had that idea just right around the other corner, because sometimes a lot of times is there's never just one person for the job. But this also kind of goes with ideas as well too, is that just because somebody else has a similar idea to you, it's like realistically do your story, because your story is always going to be unique compared to theirs. As long as you're just writing truthfully, it's always going to have its own thing. As long as you're not just like going like, I'm just kind of ripping off this guy's story, well then that might be a little bit different if you're doing like the Chinese knockoff of it. But
Mhm.
for the most part, if you just do your own thing, even if it's similar to something else, or even if it's like, yeah, that genre's been done before, well, it's not done the way that you chose to do it. That's how I always kind of look at it. It's like, hey, whatever you do is going to be its own unique, entity.
Right, it's like put your spin on it. Like even Star Wars and Indiana Jones was just like this cinematic version of the corny ass serials that George Lucas was a big fan of.
Yeah,
Like
like Buck Rogers,
mhm.
and Flash Gordon, and then it's like even the same thing of like Indiana Jones. It's all those old school like 1930s adventure type stories and so on like that. And I mean, it's like anything. It's like you take all the stuff that you like, you throw it together in a big pot, stir it around, and next thing you know, that's what becomes, in a sense, the original idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it almost like when you get too nihilistic about it, you're just like shit. It's like has there ever been an original idea, or are we just like because everything is kind of just a play on something else, which makes it a. But I mean, shit. Even before there were stories, it was like someone could just say, "Hey, you're copying the what cats do, rocks and fucking apples." Like concept is like nobody was mad that you told the story that consisted of things that already exist in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Like uh, shit. To be able to write in a time when things didn't exist yet is like fucking mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like those ones. It's like when you think about all the sci-fi stories about space before anybody's ever went to space. That's what I think is always kind of cool when you see those like 1800s sci-fi stories. Like that's almost more
Yeah,
impressive in my opinion because it's like, yeah, the people have theories and research, and it's not that there's not science out there that's kind of like going like, hey, if I had a guess, this is how it would be done. But still, the fact is that there's no hard evidence, I guess, of it actually working out yet.
it's like the scene from 2001 where he's like running up the wall, but it looks like he's just like the gravity is like sucked onto the wall.
Uh huh.
Like I don't know, it's just like that's just crazy ass visuals that like I don't know, it's like and then the classic 70s TVs, like now all of our TVs have fucking see-through glass, but like at the moment they were all these like boxy like this like the Star Trek screens or the like the Star Wars ones where it was all like radar and they all looked cheesy as fuck. It was awesome.
Yeah, well, that to me is like when it comes to movies, and I've been like this my whole life. It took me a long time to even get used to sort of like CG, but I will take a good practical effect and real life object over anything. Like that's what like almost movies like nowadays. It's like the only downfall is I still like a lot of movies now, but there's something just sort of lost when you just don't have all the real objects and just the even the goofy stuff,
Right.
like that stuff I like. I love just weird special effects that I know is tangible and real. That to me can always outweigh anything that's like yeah, I'm not saying that CG can't look good, but at the end of the day I can always
Yeah.
sort of tell that it's CG and it looks like the movie was shot like on like a high school stage for a play.
Like have you seen you've seen Total Recall, right?
Oh, that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Fucking
If
I
you
watched
look,
it for the
oh,
first
I
time
guess
the other
it's over.
day.
It's over on this side. I have my laser disc over there.
Oh shit, yeah,
I was gonna
I've
point
got a
out to you,
decent
but it's like, wait a
collection.
second, the camera's not on. Why am I even pointing this out? But
I've got a decent Laserdisc collection too.
oh god, I love laser discs. I'm very nostalgic for that. I had one of those when I was growing up. I had one of those rich friends that had like all the cool stuff like that. Like I never had any of those things, but I kind of
Mhm.
realized that my parents sort of dropped me off at all those houses that had all the kind of stuff. So I felt like that was the way that like, oh, you can play with all the cool toys here, and they got the laser discs and the VHS collection and the big Sega Genesis and Sega CD and yeah, all that stuff.
I think I just like having Laserdisc because it's a conversation starter. It's like now I can be like, hey, look, it looks like they'll be like, oh my god, are those records? It's like, nah, they're movies, and like you pull it out, it's like, yeah, it's like a DVD the size of a fucking pizza.
Yeah. And it's like, but like like realistic at that time period, like that picture quality on it, so like it was even better than a DVD, you
Mhm.
know. Um,
Now, like I have a Laserdisc player, but I have not been able to get it hooked up to my like new ass TV, and the connectors. I had connectors for it, but like I had to fiddle fuck with them for like hours, and then it started working, or it was in black and white. Like,
Oh, yeah, that's because sometimes some of those newer TVs, because they have like sometimes a mixed match composite thing, you got to sort of get that right, or you just got to buy an HDMI converter, which that's generally kind of the better way to go if your TV that doesn't have the proper plugins.
yeah, I'm just having trouble figuring out which like I look up like Panasonic something something fucking laser disc like adapter, and then Google's like, we know everything else. Fuck you.
Yeah, no, well, I could show you some of the ones later on that I've kind of picked up that I sort of use if I feel like hooking my stuff up to non-CRT TVs.
Okay.
Because I have plugs that go all different directions. I got plugs so I can like plug in both my component and composite stuff or S video into like the HDMI, and then I also have things where it can upscale them, which is kind of cool. And then I have ones where it goes the other way around, where I could take HDMI and put it back into my CRT TVs onto their AV cables.
I love talking about this shit around people that have no fucking idea what any of these words mean.
No, especially CRT TV anymore. Like nobody ever looks at you like, I'm like an old tube TV. Is that better?
Yeah, like it's a fat fucking like for me the CRT is like the sound of the glass and like the feeling of like touching it. Like that's you can't replicate that with these TVs. You're not even supposed to like look at wrong, like or else they'll fucking break.
Well, it's one of those ones of a CRT TV too. If you haven't turned one on in a long time, you forget how loud the thing is just by turning on. It turns on, it just has this hiss and a hum. Yeah, the whole time, and it's like, because it's like in my house, it's like I have a lot of TVs because I adopt TVs like lost children and pets, but like and the one is like there's I really want like a 70s CRT TV again because mine like died out and I haven't had one since then, and nowadays they're so expensive. That's the thing. It's like those old CRT TVs. It's like you look online, like on eBay, it's like $300. You're like, Jesus, that thing used to be like $5 at a thrift store, like only like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's ironic. Like, if anything, I'd say that if you're buying it online, then that just means that like they're charging the shipping because those motherfuckers are heavy.
Yeah, I definitely understand that part. It's like they're just so hard to find. It's like I have two CRT TVs left out of my whole collection. I got one that's a 26-incher, and then I got one that's like a little teeny like 10-inch like portable one that was like used for like a motorhome, which is pretty awesome. But it's like I really want I want another, because I used to have, when I was a kid, I had like a turn dial one that I'd had like my Sega Genesis hooked up to like from the 70s, and and then I have my UHF antenna and everything.
I have noticed that like when I'm looking at one of those and it's in a dark room, it hurts your eyes. Like and when you're around all these new ones with all the fucking options, and like there's like eye saver mode or midnight settings that like make it kind of red tinted, but like
yeah,
I don't know, like I couldn't switch back. I'm too spoiled for to go back to the old age of like TVs that hurt your eyes, so you actually have to do anything else.
Well, it is true. The CRT TV it like does, but then there's like other weird things, like if you're playing like a PS2 game, it just looks better on a CRT TV. Even if you got the component cables, the upscaling and all that stuff, at the end of the day, it's kind of weird. Like it just feels more right on the CRT TV. It's not that it's bad. Like I can get the set, because some people can't get the setup proper, like on like an HD TV for older systems. Like I can get it where it looks good and it's like it pretty much is close, but there's just that little extra, maybe it's a nostalgic filter, but like at the end of the day, like certain systems, it's like the N64. Like the N64 generally has to be played on a CRT TV or else it looks funny. It just looks off. I think that's why a lot of people just don't like the N64 anymore, is because they hook them up to like their 70-inch TV. And it's like, well, yeah, of course it's going to look like junk. It's made to be on like a 20-inch CRT TV that's smoothed out and everything.
Yeah, I got one of those. I have a little fucking double setup for my N64. There's I got the HDMI hookup, and then the what's it called? An EverDrive. You ever got one of those?
I have one of those for my N64 as well.
Yeah. I think I started playing what was it? The Smash 64 remix.
Oh, where they had the other characters in there and everything.
Yeah, and it's like on like widescreen because like it's adapted for it. I feel like it like melds together really well.
Because like there's a few because like 007 actually has a widescreen adapter in it, which I always kind of thought like, who the hell has a widescreen TV in 1997? But yeah, it's just like Jesus, like who you had sent at the president's house, like come on, you know.
They fucking use on the projector.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only way I can imagine it. But that no, the EverDrive for the N64, I feel like that's like one of the most must things to have because the 64 one just never seems to emulate good on anything. Like, you know, at the end of the day. And then the second thing is like without the controller, that 64 just never seems right.
Yeah, 100%. Every game is like designed for it, and pulling trigger and then pressing or I think on the Xbox version of Banjo, it's like bumper bumper, and then you do the Talentra. It's like it's not the same.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's just a little bit off, you know. And even though like that Xbox like remaster version is really cool, but yeah, it's like the control wise, it's like, and that's a lot of times it. Like a lot of times, like you know, having the right controller in your hand for like whatever system and game you're playing, that a lot of times makes such a big difference. You know, like, and that's almost like the nostalgic like thing. It's like it's realistically, it's not the console, it's not the cartridges, it's not any of that. It's what the controller you have in your hand makes such a big difference.
Yeah, especially like at least like with Xbox or fucking any system that comes after that era, it's like it's pretty much all the same. It's like four face buttons, D-pad, two sticks. I don't care who the fuck you are. It's pause and select. Like I don't believe in this like I remember
Options.
Yeah, options.
They start.
Menu.
I kind of hate. It's like, dude, like we've called it start and select like for the last 40 years, pretty much. Like, don't think you're gonna.
There's that one asshole who's like, "Oh, do you mean the options button?" Is like, you fucking cocksucker. It's
Yeah,
the left
like,
one. It's
yeah,
the fucking.
yeah. There's always that guy. It's like no. It's like, dude. It's like no. Like, there's always someone who has to get cute and think that they can name it differently. And like, yeah, I get it. Like, let's be honest. Options makes more sense, but that needed to make more sense in like 1983, not now. It's
Like,
too late.
for me, like I think Xbox has it right with their descriptions of the bumpers and triggers because you know what that is. Like you don't have to like because for me it's like if you ask me like so it's L1 R2 like I don't fucking know which one so the 2 is the trigger like I don't it's a lot easier if you say that if you describe it as a trigger because it pulls like a fucking trigger versus like the bumper where you're not going to mistake each for the other like,
Yeah, no,
it's a great description.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. I mean, like sometimes I still always refer to it as just L1 and L2 because that's just like what it was for so long before like that section
Right.
kind of came together, you know, because it wasn't until like the 360 till they started kind of calling them all that. But yeah, it's like yeah, some of those ones is like they are logical, but like yeah, it's like they always got to just get kind of they just feel like there's just like sometimes just there's certain things don't change it up. It's like okay, we got it dialed in, you know.
Like I remember playing Minecraft with my friends on like a 4 split screen in the living room, and they were like, I was like trying to figure out the thing, and you don't know like the half of hearing a room full of people go, oh, hey, oh, when you press the fucking share button because you thought it was the select button. Because I didn't have a PS4 at the moment, so I was like, how do I open the motherfucker? Okay, this one, no. And they're like, oh, it's like I don't circles, I don't fucking know.
God, the share button's always such an annoying one. I know it sounds like the most old man like complaining feature, but that button always gets in the way of like every progress you're trying to do.
Fucking Xbox record that,
Yeah, it's like no, stop recording. Like don't record me doing something stupid.
Like I don't think that the share and record feature is as useful as they want you to fucking think that it's useful. Like I remember like I had a friend, he would just play fucking Red Dead or Hitman all fucking day, and sometimes I'd be like, oh shit, like he'd be playing and I wasn't looking at the moment, and he'd like hold down a button, and then he'd be able to like go back like a couple minutes. I'm like, okay, that is cool. But when you're in like, I don't know, if it was a whole fucking button and you could accidentally press it, it's annoying as shit. Like,
Yeah, exactly. I would rather just have that thing where like it's always sort of doing like a background recording of like 10 minutes, and then it just sort of slowly deletes that 10 minutes as it records new stuff. And if you want to keep it, you just stop right there. That makes more logical sense.
yeah, it's God.
But yeah,
Gaming is coming weird.
yeah, it is. It's weird. It's weird and it's great all at this weird same time. I feel like there's so many things I like about it. There's so many strange things about it. As I said, I love it. I mean, I love the mixed match of my nostalgic stuff, but I also look very forward to new things all at the same time too. You know,
I mean, like,
there's always something fun to keep up with.
there was never really like, I know it's always been an industry, like it's never been like always for art, and the things that are for art are like games like Celeste or fucking Binding of Isaac or indie games mostly. But like, if your game is fucking, you want your game to make money, you pretty much can't have a game that's that story, and once you're done with it, you're done with it. You gotta have like you, season passes and like online capabilities to keep people's attention, because fucking, Cyberpunk, once the game was over and people were done bitching about it, it was gone. Like, and then it's like, what? Then they update it. It's like, what am I going to play it again? And then hope that like the glitches aren't there anymore? No.
Yeah, yeah. That time that's already passed. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like it's a weird one too, because I mean you can almost sum it up in very old fashioned words. There's generally two types of kind of games and game players out there. There's people that play in a sense arcade style, which is what most of that stuff kind of is. Like, they want short bursts that don't last longer than maybe an hour, and it kind of cycles like the gameplay over and over and over again. You're shooting for top score, top kill, whatever. And then there's the adventure gamer who's, the person who wants, say, a story, and they want, longevity, and they want an adventure, and they want places to go and things to do. And it's most likely going to be a single player romp, not saying that it can't be co-op or something like that, but that's what they're sort of going for, and I feel like sometimes it's like they have a hard time catering to the two different audiences.
Yeah. And I know that, Last of Us is putting out a multiplayer soon for part 2, which is like an update, and it'll be like a battle royale mode, but like it'll be kind of like the multiplayer they had for part 1.
Yeah, it's kind of like the stealthy style.
Yeah, it's just I remember that the criticism that I had for it was like, you could either like be new to the game and get steamrolled, or you can be good at the game and everyone sucks and you just fucking kill everyone really quick.
Yeah, it makes you either feel like you're too good or you're not good enough. There's no in between.
Like, it's a weird comparison, but if you've ever played Plants vs Zombies multiplayer, like for the Xbox, then it's like that. You either start off strong and then win, or you are the other guy and you fucking lose really hard.
And that's how I feel like there's so many like sometimes online experiences can be too. It's like like I like to play fighting games online. Like if there's one competitive game that I like a lot is fighting games, and there's certain ones I'm definitely better at than others. It's like, but that's always like how Street Fighter is. It's like sometimes you kind of go on there and it goes like, it's like sometimes you kind of go, where are just like the average players? It feels like everybody in here is like top tier list. Like there's nobody like in like just the middle class. Like, yeah, I play Street Fighter on like the weekends. Like, no. It's like Street Fighter and nothing else. I never was able to get farther than like the not the bronze, but like the silver class. I was like as far up as I ever got on Street Fighter 5, which was still pretty impressive, I guess I would say. But there was just a certain point where it's like, I just can't go any farther up, I guess.
Right. And if you want to keep your viewer base amused, I guess, then like doing things in a very certain way, like in order to have a Fortnite on your hands, like and have a billion players and do all this kinds of shit. Like the like multiverses really fell off. Like they were trying their best to keep that going, but people buying skins wasn't enough for them to like stay invested.
Yeah. I don't know. I always feel like some of those games just like you just like it's weird that you don't see it where like you almost do the thing where it's like, okay, here you make the engine once in the game sort of on like say, whatever said system is out at the time, like we'll just say PS5, Xbox Series X at the moment. And then it's like you do the thing where it's like, okay, we'll use like Halo as an example. Like, so here's Halo. And then you just keep stacking on, like in a sense, instead of doing like more like Halo games, it's like just keep adding to the game where it's like the campaign, just here's another like 5 hours of campaign, and we'll just keep updating that every single like 6 months or something like that. Here's, a continual like multiplayer maps, and it's just the same game. I guess the only downfall is that the same game would get up to like half a, terabyte big at some point, but because you'd have so many on there. But
yeah, it's weird. It's a weird state of games where like there's a rumor going around that games are going to start having ads in them, like, and that just sounds like ass. Like I watch my nephews play the free iPad games, and like it's like every few rounds there's a fuck, or every like between every like playing of the game there's a fucking like 2 or 3 ads. I'm like, how do you like there's an Xbox, there's a PlayStation 5 in the living room, play that. Yeah. Like, interact or something.
Well, see, and I'm at that point in life where it's like, if I can pay $5 or whatever a month to get rid of any ads that I have to see, I will do it. Like, I don't care. It's like, I don't want to see those ads, like, at all. And I mean, there is some, like, once you see absolutely no ads, sometimes you do actually feel like you're kind of out of the loop on certain things. But I feel for the overall thing, it's like, no, like, let's just, I don't want those. I remember Street Fighter V was that game used to have like they would play an ad between when the match like was loading or whatever, and like you could turn it off, but they would do the thing where like, well, we'll give you fight points for it. I'm like, I don't care. Do not. Don't you dare put an ad between the game I paid for.
Right. It's
if
like
it's free, I get it. Like if it's free, like I feel like there's nothing you can kind of say or do. It's like, dude, you're getting it for free. Like be fucking grateful. But
it's like almost disrespectful to have a fucking ad on a game that is free, or a game that is, you paid for. Like fucking Street Fighter 6. Like I'm honestly pretty hyped for. But if I remember Street Fighter 5, they had like some promotion, I'll just say with like brisk iced tea or some shit, and they were like fucking they took the American flag off of Guile's arm. Yeah. And then they put like a logo on it. I can't remember what the fuck it was. It was like some
and that's what you. It's like you just took down America, like that. That's unpatriotic right there.
It's like, well, I mean, for Guile, it's like that's his fucking like that arm tattoo is like a huge part of Guile,
Yeah, it's been there forever and so on like that. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's and I get it. Like these ad companies, like before you used to always have TV and newspapers and all kinds of places to put your ads in and magazines, and all these things are disappearing. So like they got to find these new avenues to put ads in. I kind of get it, but like. Yeah. If I feel like we're at this point, it's like, no, we gotta just get these ads out of here. Like if I have the money, just go away. That's what you want, right? Here's some money. Keep that away from me.
Right. I mean, it's just I remember I was watching this YouTuber the other day, and he was talking about something, and then he said that's almost as good as this ad, and then nothing happened. And then he was like, all right, if you got ad block on, fuck you. And I'm like, oh, I'm watching this on my computer. Got my ass real fucking hard. And then I put in the comments like, hey, I like your videos. Make a what do you call the fucking things where they you could pay for, you just pay your YouTubers like $5 a month or something. What is it?
Like a Patreon type thing?
Yeah. Like, make a Patreon. Like, I will pay for it. I think your shit is good and I want to see more.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like It's finding those avenues and so on. And I know that like realistically, there's only like three ways in life to generally get paid. It's either you have ads, you have donations, or you have you sell merchandise of some kind. And then that's kind of about it. I mean, granted, there's always something else out there that's kind of creative, but those are like the three core ways that like you make money one way or the other.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of another one. I can't really. I'm on the spot. I can't think of
No,
one.
yeah. If you think about that, that's pretty much how everybody sort of makes money. It's either it's merchandise, donations, or it's ads. Like that's like especially for like the internet. That's pretty much all the ways. As I said, yeah, I just said that there's probably would be some really other random way, but for the most part, it fits all in those same categories.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I mean,
I don't know.
You sell currency for goods, donations. I don't know,
and selling currency,
investment.
that's kind of a variation of like, yeah, I guess that would be the other one. But if somebody like invested in you, but then they would hope to get money out of you as time went on.
Right. So
you'd be like a stock.
Yeah. Well, my thought would be like you in investing in fucking real estate or something outside of the thing that you're like creating, or and then donations would be like, because I was thinking of PBS where they would just like it was government like
you get
funded.
those moments when you're watching like a concert and they're like, okay, now I know you're loving the concert right now, but if we just donate the $5, you're gonna get the CD, you're gonna get all the good stuff that comes along with it, you're helping out you're like, Jesus Christ, just get back to the concert.
It's like the middle of the concert. The guy's like, I like this vibe. I like the concert energy. Everyone's running around. This reminds me of Raid Shadow Legends. It's a great app game. You can upgrade your guy. I don't know. I actually have no fucking idea what you do with Raid Shadow Legends. I'm not gonna lie, but because I skip it every single time.
It's like, yeah, it's skipping. Well, it's like I've had like the YouTube Premium for like the longest time, and it's like I feel like I don't use like any of the features on there. I just want the no ads. I know it's got like the music thing that's like literally just as good as Spotify, and I feel bad because I pay for Spotify and technically the YouTube one, so I just got way more music than I ever need. But they're just not having ads though. It's like when I see other people's YouTubes and they got ads on there, I'm like, dude, like I just almost want to be like, what are you, cheap? Like, I mean, I know it's
broken
like
here.
It's like $12. I know it's not the cheapest thing out of all things, but at the same time, it's $12 to like, how much time you save in the month. I remember I calculated it one time. I was just like, because like, you watch like one video and it's like they give you like 4 ads like every single time. You're like, geez, that adds up fast. Adds up so fast. If you watch a movie on there, God forbid how many ads you're going to get.
Yeah, I guess there is the movie. Sometimes it just like, I swear to God, it was on my TV or my Switch or whatever the fuck, and I put on Secret NM, and it didn't give me any ads. It wasn't my computer where it just decided to not give me ads. Like for the
you know what that might have been is because that might have been somebody uploaded it from their own page, and they might have ads turned off.
Oh no, it was the like official. I clicked on it. It said like watch with ads. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm fine with that. And then it happened, and then it was like just the movie. Like it just forgot to give me ads. It was like YouTube for a little bit, like it just didn't work with AdBlock, and then AdBlock updated once, and then now you can go on there on your PC and watch a fucking whole movie with AdBlock, and it'll just not have ads. That's
pretty cool. I know it's like some people always said, like, why don't you just get the ad block? I'm like, yeah, but then I don't have that on everything I used it on. Like, I want just, that's great if I'm watching my PC, but like most of the time YouTube, I use it. Like, I use YouTube generally to watch old movies that you can't find anywhere else, and some, good person out there uploads it on the YouTube. Like, that's like my main thing I use YouTube for more than anything else, is it's the place you can find stuff where you're like, God, I can't find this movie from 1972. Oh, wait, somebody uploaded on YouTube? It's perfect.
I think, it's just movies that people don't give a shit about. Like,
there's just not enough money to be chasing around, like taking these people down.
The entirety of the first Transformers movie, the animated one, is on YouTube for free. It just is. Like, I watched it and I was like, okay, this is great. I'm having a great time. It's just here.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, I got that's one of those ones. That movie's so good. I got it on Blu-ray and DVD and all that good stuff. And yeah, just one of those ones. But yeah, it's like there's so much like random ass stuff, especially like animes, like old animes that you can't find anywhere. Like they don't even come on Crunchyroll or anything like that because they're like from the 70s or 80s or something like that. Like there's always somebody, some good Samaritan has uploaded that copy onto YouTube. Like, God bless those people, I guess.
I think YouTube is where I first watched The Room. And that was nice.
Yeah.
Like, someone was nice enough to risk their account. But like it had like Spanish subtitles.
All right. Well, that's sometimes the other thing that does happen. You think you found something really good, and you're like, awesome, and it's all in French with no American subtitles. Okay.
Yeah, it's like the whole fucking movie is the guy. I found that for Real Steel like a while back.
Yeah, because every once in a while you get it's like, oh, the guy from Europe has uploaded it, but no, it doesn't. And then you don't dare try to have the Google AI try to translate it for you for its subtitles, because that a lot of times those words just don't come out right.
It's just it's almost funny. It's like a whole different experience. Like and then like with that, I didn't even realize that it was in Spanish until like I think like 5 minutes in, because the whole introduction of Real Steel is just a bunch of like people walking around and then visual like knowledge of things that happen, and then fucking Hugh Jackman picks up the phone and goes starts speaking Spanish into my ear. I'm like, oh fuck me.
Yeah, it's like it's all gone, and that's it. Boom, there. But yeah, no, that is the upside of nowadays, is that you can once again find just random ass stuff that you would be on the hunt for forever. I mean, it's kind of a bummer not having the actual hunt, because the actual hunt going to stores and looking for stuff was so much fun, you know. Or even just the old school days of like early days eBay, when bidding was still like a thing. That was always fun back in like the day. And you'd have the bidding wars, and sniping hadn't been invented yet, and you know, it was just straight up just like adrenaline rush buying experience.
Yeah, I mean, like, I almost feel like I missed out. Like, I'm too young to, like, I think the Blockbuster in my area closed when I was like, I don't know. I can't even remember. I was probably like 10.
Mm-hmm.
So, and walking around and like just buying the like DVDs they were just selling for low ass prices, I wasn't even appreciating it. I was just like, whatever. Here, like, I barely remember that. Like, I only went once because I was a child and I didn't have the opportunity to go whenever.
Yeah, and you didn't have like, you know, the disposable income or any of that stuff at that time period. See, and the downfall is like it's like, you know, you missed out on that. But then there's the pre-era, like the before Blockbuster started showing up. That's the one that I like when I was a kid. Like there used to be like just in my area, there was like 11 different places you could go to like rent movies from and or buy them. Mm-hmm. And it was like, so you had choices galore of these mom and pop shops. And of course, once Blockbuster comes, all of those places go away and you have no choices except for the one, you know. Right. And that was always the biggest bummer, is like, God, it was the same. The GameStop would do the same thing too, is like you would have like all these cool mom and pop game shops, and you know, they'd all have different deals and different ways and different selections. Then GameStop shows up with its like bland selection, and the, you know, you go to trade a game, like, you know, the old rule of thumb used to be when you trade something in is that the company would give you pretty much half of whatever they were going to sell it for. So if you trade a game in and they were going to sell it for $30, they would give you $15. Reasonable amount. Everybody sort of wins. And then it's like GameStop came in like, it's in mint condition. We'll give you $2.99 for it. It's like, but you're going to sell it for $50. Be like, yeah, where else are you going to go? You know what I mean? And then, you know, the other thing too is that like it used to be, GameStop like broke all the rules, and that's what always makes me kind of angry about that place, is that like they have like no honor, or, you know what I mean? They're just like, let's be honest, a dirty corporate company. But it used to be also too that's like, you know, if you had a game, you know, if the game was in mint condition, it would be a different price than anything else. And then it's like, if it's missing the booklet, the price goes down significantly. If it's missing the case, it's almost goes down more than half of what it should be, you know, like, but GameStop will sell you like a disc that's scratched, you know, for like literally like the same price as like a mint condition copy. And the worst part too is then other game stores start adopting that, and like, it's like one of those ones, like, yeah, you'll go to places and you'll be like, dude, this thing is like all beat up and jacked up. Like, I can literally go on eBay and actually buy a good copy of it for like cheaper than this.
Yeah, it's like, and then like, because before that there were options of stores, but now the option is independent seller online or big ass game company. So
yeah,
like you're spoiled for choice, and you always know the actual value of what you're purchasing. Like I don't know if you've ever been in like a small game store, and then you look online, you're like, this shit is obviously cheaper online, but like, I'm here mostly to support a business. If anything, it's the gimmick.
mm-hmm.
Like, it's the gimmick aspect of it.
Well, it's like one of those ones. If I like a store and I feel like they're doing right and they're not trying to, like, in a sense, scam, because even some of those like somewhat mom and pop shops can even pull some of those scams where you're like, dude, this game looks like it's practically destroyed, and you're selling it for the price of like new. It's like, it just sounds weird. I remember as a kid, somehow, some way, there was like this like sheet that came in with like a set of like probably like baseball cards or something like that, but it felt like it told me all the rules of how, like, you know collecting was supposed to be, and it had the descriptions of like, you know, acceptable to good, great, like new, and all that kind of stuff in there. It had the full on description, and I feel like this sheet right here needs to be passed out to everybody who's going to resell anything, because I do not think that people follow that. I mean, I even see it on online as well too. I mean, eBay is mostly pretty good because I think nobody wants to screw up their accounts by like trying to jack someone off. But you know, like Amazon used to be like, when they used to have sellers on Amazon, because they don't really have that anymore. It used to be like, because you just see it and people would just put the most generic thing and be like, oh, like new, and then you would get it. And I mean, I have got some things before that were like in the acceptable category and they were like new, but then I've also got the other way around where you're like, yeah, the disc is in good condition, but the case looks like it was soaked in water. Like, what the hell?
It's like, yeah, it is a weird experience buying from randoms online that just are trying to sell their crap versus like Chris at the local Sack Gamers Expo. He started getting his, like, people went to him, and the other booths started phasing out because his stuff was always clean, like, and his value was also there. He didn't just throw stuff out. He had it organized. It was like in its own sections, and people saw the value in that and now give him money,
Yep. And that's the thing, is there's like you got to kind of have that personal kind of like feeling of going towards like knowing what these objects are and what they're worth, and you can't just look at online and just see what the most expensive one is and think that they're all going to be worth that. No, there literally is a grading of like the collection there, and that's something that bothers me. That's the other thing too, is if you're going to resell something, put the little bit of time in to clean stuff up, because you can take something that's kind of like a little bit funky, you get in there and you clean it up a little bit, you get it dialed in, and you can literally raise the grade of something by taking the proper care of it. And it's like, you're a business, that this should be part of your job, is making sure these things, it's not for the consumer to buy it and then clean it up. And if that is like, it's got to be cheaper.
Right. Sometimes I'd find people online who are like, yeah, you can clean your Nintendo, like your NES carts with a magic eraser. It'll get anything off, but it'll also take away the little bit of texture, and people will start to notice if they are like a hardcore collector. So you got to use like this special, I think I saw he used like alcohol and a Q-tip to get like Sharpie off, or some sort of compound to like get Sharpie marker off of, because people would write their names, and sometimes if they were
like
fucking psychos, If they
To
were,
me, that was always, if I saw someone's name on a cartridge, I'm like I hate to sort of say it, but that's just, you just put yourself in the special ed category when you do that.
fucking hell, right?
God, it's just like, Steven, my game. It's like, oh Jesus, really? Come on.
Have you ever seen a branded game? Like
Brandon?
they melt their name into the fucking cartridge.
Oh
like,
gosh, I don't know if I've ever seen that. I've seen them carve it in there like an animal, like in jail.
Fucking, I've seen plenty of Blockbuster used to do that in video stores, but a lot of like I've seen some first names on cartridges before like that, and I'm just like, holy shit, you do not know what you're doing when you melt your name into a fucking little Samsung cartridge. High side is 2020, but fuck.
Yeah, God. Well, I just got a lot of pet peeves when it comes to stuff. It's like the same thing with businesses putting like the stickers that leave the sticky residue on there. It's like,
oh my God. Yeah.
Or the worst one too is when you put a sticker on top of like the label. So God forbid when you go to peel it off, it might tear it off. I'm like, I just feel like this should be common sense. Like, obviously, I know that like we're in America, so anybody can start a business, and it's not like it takes anything. But these are some of those things you see, and it's like, well, obviously, this shows that we need to have tests because the average person can't handle this. Or like one of the worst ones too is when some video game stores would do this, where they'd put like the sticker on like the CD label. And that's fine for certain systems like a PlayStation or something, like, you know, like for rental ones. But like if you go to put those like in like a Wii or any of those ones where the disc slides in, like it jacks it all up. And then like sometimes it'll never play or it'll be really hard to get back out.
It's like, were you that afraid of someone like opening your box and swapping the prices or whatever the fuck you were afraid of? That's like, because sometimes they put it on the paper instead of the plastic where you can take it off and wash it. And like I think I have like a copy of Star Fox Adventures that's like that, where like the because it looks,
put it on the inside.
Like, yeah, they put it on the paper on instead of the fucking case, to where like at least with the case you can like scrub the shit out of it. But if you tear away the paper from like the thin layer of print from the paper, that shit's not coming back on. That's just gone.
That's what I almost want to say GameStop used to do that. They used to because they'd put like 3 stickers on the thing. God, this was on the size one thing. Always like the more I always think about GameStop, the more how much I dislike that place. But it's like they do all like the evil, dirty tactics that, like, I mean, granted, I guess that's how you win and kill off a bunch of other people's businesses and livelihoods. But you know, right. At the end of the day, it's like the day that GameStop goes down, I'll be so happy. I'll be like, yes, you take that. It was almost the same way I sort of felt about Blockbuster, because I know people have a lot of nostalgia for Blockbuster. And granted, like when it was the last thing left in life, it was like, okay, yeah, I mean, I'd rather have this than nothing. But once it died, I was like, no, it got the death it deserved. Like it literally, think about how many like families Blockbuster like destroyed their livelihood of when it came out. Like there were so many lost businesses because of that one place that I was like, no, they got exactly what they deserve. And it's the same thing that GameStop will get once they finally die out. It's like, no, you know what I mean? They destroyed so many other places. They deserve a traitor's death.
Fucking, I remember they first, like, there was a point where there's a GameStop up the street from me in like 2 different directions that were the same time, and then the mall, and then like that was 3 GameStops within like a fucking mile radius.
And they're not even different from each other. It's not like you can go to each GameStop and like, hey, there's something different here. No, they like have the exact same thing. Just silly.
Yeah.
You know.
How long do you usually cap off your podcast at?
This is actually generally longer than normally goes. Sometimes it just kind of happens like when you talk to somebody for generally like, I guess like the first time as like on a podcast sense, and then you just kind of go on forever. A lot of times I always say the nice length is about give or take an hour and a half to 2 hours. We're definitely breached that. We're at like the Joe Rogan length of this one going here, but sometimes it just kind of happens when you're talking. So I think this is probably a good place to wrap it up with. You know what? Screw GameStop and screw Blockbuster.
Right, exactly. Fucking They are. I mean, if anything, you know, I don't believe in Walmart. Fuck Walmart, but their Switch games are $10 cheaper than anywhere else. So if you have a problem with Breath of the Wild being $70 fucking for no reason, you should go to Walmart where it will be 60, and you could pretend like the world's fucking normal again.
You know, and I'll say this too: you go to Walmart, nobody ever hassles you there about making a pre-order or any of that stuff. They just get the game for you and they take you to the register. It's simple and easy. Like that's the only thing I'll say about that is like, because that's what I started. I was like, it's just easier to go there sometimes. I mean, the Walmart was like, you know, the evil of the evil corporations. But when it comes to that, when you're dealing with corporation versus corporation, let's be honest, like there is no hero out of any of those. But yeah, good stuff beyond that, whatever, independent, creating arts, writing stuff. I know that like we're on here talking that we go on tangents of all kinds of fun stuff, but
I'm digging the idea of doing this again. Like this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had good fun stuff, all kinds of avenues to go and all that stuff. Well, Griffin, if people want to keep up on your work and your writing and all that good stuff, is there a good place that they can find you at?
Well, at the moment, no, actually. I just deleted my Instagram. But if you'll have me on again, or maybe after this, I'll give you a link, and they can find that in the description, or whatever version of this that your viewers are listening to this on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'll be able to find a link to my information in the description.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll whip something in the description, and that'll make it easy and so on like that. Beyond all that fun stuff, you can always find all of my stuff with all the old podcasts, Pizza Boys comics, old animations, videos, and so on at oldmanorange.com. Until then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes with super special guest
Grffin Sims,
and we will see you guys later.